that, let's go ahead and introduce our first match of the day. We have Texas Tech University up against University of California, Los Angeles. California has just been generally a very powerhouse group of schools. You have Berkeley, who's done really well in not just Hearthstone, but Heroes of the Storm and a few other competitions. San Diego is where I come from, and we've always been doing really well back dating to StarCraft days. So we'll see whether or not they have the chops to follow up such an illustrious career in history.
Well, they're going to have to take down Texas Tech University, featuring No Foolin', Tasty Nacho, and, of course, from Texas, Cowboys.
The captain. Captain Cowboys leads the group, and they come from all different kinds of backgrounds in their degrees, accounting, biology, and computer science. But interesting to note, too, is that Texas Tech University is just a group of friends since middle school. That's right. They survived middle school, secondary school, and now all the way to university, playing from the very beginning. And they're all freshmen. They're all doing this together as their first real foray into competitive scene, and they love doing it together. And they say that's their favorite part about competing, is that they can do it with their friends.
Yeah, and they've going to be facing off against University of California, Los Angeles with Triton, Dovahkiin, and Kinix.
That's right. Triton, we mentioned, has competed before on bigger stages such as the Red Bull Team Brawl. And Dovahkiin and Kinix are a little bit newer, but I mean, if they're going to be astrophysicists and aerospace engineers potentially working for NASA or other really crazy, sophisticated, high-level, intelligent jobs and careers, I'm sure Hearthstone's a walk in the park for these kind of guys.
And while Texas Tech have been friends for forever, the UCLA guys, they actually met through sort of scouting players for a TESPA team via Facebook.
Yeah, they went through a much more meticulous process of vetting to get to where they are, right? They're like, we're taking the best, the brightest from UCLA, a very big and popular and well-respected university. And Texas Tech says, we're just a bunch of friends and we love playing Hearthstone together. And it's a really interesting spectrum, so to speak. We have definitely two different ideologies, and they're both here into the finals for their respective regions. Now, we saw that in the very beginning, we have two players that are predetermined. We mentioned that each player has 3 unique classes, making up all 9 in Hearthstone, but they do have a set order that they're going to play in, Gibler.
Right. The teams already know the order that they will be competing in. They haven't decided which deck they'll play for any given match yet. And as the decks for each, or rather, as each player takes losses, that player, if they take a second loss, they're eliminated. So they're removed from the rotation.
That's right. So it's interesting to see how they're building out their set of 3, right? We kind of showed on screen that they have very different ideologies. And I kind of want to ask you, Kibler, like, what's the first thing that sticks out to you about this format when you're first constructing a lineup?
Well, the first thing that jumps out is it's a very difficult format to prepare for, especially this early in a metagame. Cobalt and Catacombs just came out. We just saw Trinity Series a week ago that really has helped define the metagame right now. And you need to figure out when you're pairing these 3. It's sort of like a conquest format where you don't want your decks to all be weak to the same sort of thing. If your decks are all weak to the same sort of thing, you could just end up getting yourself eliminated and all your decks eliminated pretty easily if your opponents can identify that.
That's right. There are certain pockets that you have to cover. And so when you have, the first thing that we saw from UCLA is that they have a Shaman Hunter Priest setup. The Priest can cover almost everything because I think almost everybody agrees that Priest is very good. But Hunter and Shaman definitely have notable weaknesses currently in the metagame, unless you pair them in a specific way that you can identify your opponent's weaknesses and find a way for Shaman to get in there as well. Because, I mean, people are talking about the weaknesses of a certain class, but when you're forced to bring every class, there's definitely some pros and cons of everything.
Yeah, but unlike a format like Trinity Series, you can't really have a deck that is essentially just a counter to a specific deck. Because you have to play all 3 of your decks before you can go back to the first one, you will have to queue up those decks at some point outside of what may be a pure favorable matchup.
That's right. So it looks like the players are first setting up here. I actually kind of want to take this opportunity to get your impressions on the meta game right now, because I think it's very undefined. So do you think there's any classes outside of Priest that you will also think could be a heavy lifter, perhaps even a sleeper class?
Well, certainly not a sleeper. I think Warlock is the pretty clear number 2 right now. I think controlling Warlock has strong matchups against just about everything but Priest. It has the tools to survive the early game against aggressive decks, and then either just long game value potential or even combo potential we've seen from the Doomguard Carnivorous Cube burst Warlock decks that have really kind of exploded on ladder over the past week.
Yeah, that deck is insane. I climbed from rank 7 to rank 1 almost on a complete win streak. I lost about 3 or 4 times, and I played like 30 games, and I completely destroyed the ladder. And I couldn't believe how good it was, because a lot of people were telling me that it was just a gimmick. It was nothing more than, quote, a meme deck. But
it's good.
It's very, very good, and it could be one of those weird pockets of the meta, but I'm expecting Warlock to also be a heavy hitter. Is there any other classes that you are paying attention to very closely here for this competition?
I think Rogue is another one of the power classes. There's actually a number of ways you can build Rogue right now. We've seen both sort of adaptations of Tempo Rogue, including Corridor Creeper. We've seen Miracle-style lists that look to make a bunch of spiders with Feldori Strider, and also just Kingsbane Rogue decks. The Kingsbane Rogue Mill-style deck can be very powerful, but it will be Paladin versus Hunter in this very first game, and we see pretty clearly the strategies of each of the decks from the opening hands. It'll be Murloc Paladin from Texas Tech against a very aggressive Hunter deck from UCLA.
These are 2 other classes that I want to talk about. I think Paladin is definitely a class that people aren't really talking too much about, but if you look at the overall database of Hearthstone statistics being uploaded to all of the replays and whatnot, Paladin's performing very well. And then you also have Hunter, who's still being slept on in terms of just the aggressive versions of it. You see UCLA is playing a list, or very similar to what Reynad was tweeting out early on into the expansion, about just getting on board very fast and not really playing with any of their new legendary weapons or to my side, but instead just valuing a lot of pressure, and things like Candle Shot has really enabled the Pirates to be very powerful.
Yeah, Hunter has struggled in having weaker early game than most of the other classes for 2 reasons. 1, just not as solid 1-drops, and 2, having an inability to really deal with opposing minions without taking unfavorable trades early on.
Yeah.
Candle Shot shores up 2 of those. It allows you to more effectively play the South Sea deckhand we see in UCLA's opening hand.
Yes.
And also the inclusion of Dire Mole gives you a 1-drop beast that can tend to survive to the later turns, or the later turns being turn 2, so it could get buffed by the crackling Razor Maw.
Yeah, it's not flashy, but it's very effective, and Hunter can use that very effectively. And aggressive Hunter specifically sits at the top of the 2nd tier of win rates from a lot of decks. Maybe not necessarily as powerful as Priest, Paladin, but definitely hanging in there. And UCLA is going to get this explosive start. South Sea Deckhand and Candle Shot with patches being pulled out. Texas Tech was originally looking for a 1-mana play, got off the top, probably were feeling very good, but this means that they don't get the Rock Pool Hunter synergy.
It's an interesting choice from UCLA here, because it does mean that they don't really have a great play for their turn 2. They don't have a great way to use that mana, and if the Texas Tech does play a just 2/3 here, Rock Pool Hunter, they'll need to pretty much trade their board into it. So UCLA could have chosen to hold on to that, maybe just play the Candle Shot and attack the Tide Caller.
Yes.
And then play both 1-drops turn 2, saving their coin. But their deck, it's unclear how high their curve goes.
Right.
So maybe they just want to try and get the damage in right now, and they may even be happy to hero power on turn 2, depending how things go.
I think it was a recognition of what's important in this matchup, and it's denying Murloc synergy.
Yes.
No fooling, or specifically Texas Tech, they kept 1 card, but played the Murloc Tide Caller off the top of the deck. So they could be making a read of Rock Pool Hunter and recognizing that if they went slow, the Murlocs might build onto the board faster than they can win it back.
Well, a 2nd captain picked up for UCLA, but it looks like they're going to have to trade off their single pirate right now. So those captains will not have minions to buff when they do come down.
And this is the downside, of course, of their play, was that they were banking on being able to have a very good follow-up on turn 2, either drawing a powerful 2-mana play or just fitting another 1-mana minion. But instead, they're setting up a couple of 1/1s, which is not the worst case scenario, but still, their turn 3 doesn't have the power explosion that you would like outside of the Eagle Horn Bow swing.
Texas Tech's turn 3 is not terribly impressive either here. They have the Rock Pool Hunter with Noble Sacrifice, which can protect the Hunter, but the rest of their hand is actually pretty expensive, and that's not really what they're looking for in this matchup. They want to curve out as effectively as possible to try to get those Murlocs on the board and shut down Triton's offense.
Yeah, the big player in Texas Tech's hand right now will be how Finja will be able to land down and win the board against Hunter, because currently Hunter is expending all of its resources early on to winning the board, and they're showing a lot of respect to the Paladin. They're not usually they're pressuring a lot less than they could be, and with that South Sea deckhand, I mean, they have the opportunity to start pressuring even more in the coming turns, but now first they have to deduce what kind of secret that is. from Texas Tech.
I think when you are in UCLA's spot, you're thinking about primarily Redemption and Noble Sacrifice. Noble Sacrifice, you'll want to attack first, probably with one of your cats. I would suggest Ugly Cat because you need to preserve Cute Cat's life at all costs.
Yes.
They then would, if the secret is Noble Sacrifice, they trigger it. They could potentially play Eaglehorn Bow, take out the Rockpool Hunter, still have a beast on the board. They do blow a charge from Candle Shot, but that's not really super high value. Ooh, they're gonna sacrifice Cute Cat. No.
Yeah, I was kind of rooting for UCLA, and now I think I have to reconsider.
I mean, this is clearly, that is the cuter cat. You should not send it into its death.
Strict misplay.
Oh, yeah, there. And you, just look at it.
No.
Look at Tabby Cat. Look at how much cuter it is.
The way it's being shown as if it's like on the funeral pedestal right now, like it's being put on the coffin. We're remembering Tabby Cat.
Press F.
Yeah. Well, Texas Tech does not get rewarded for setting up a board position here. They do not have any leverage over this Rallying Blade whatsoever to secure a board. They're at the mercy of UCLA, and they have a very powerful combination with Pirates. They have Southsea Deckhand and Southsea Captain, and if either of them stick, they have a follow-up Captain for Pirates Energy. And this is something that's been discussed at length, even as recently as this morning between a lot of the community, which is how powerful is this neutral package to the point where you can stick it into any deck that has aggressive potential. And it felt like for a long time Hunter was a logical class for it to fit in, but because they didn't have things like Candle Shot, it wouldn't really fit. Now it's a very powerful explosive potential. Yeah,
and Hunter is a class that of course can leverage that early game aggression very well. Hero power obviously allows you to close out games if you do just get in even a reasonably low amount of early damage. You can close out a lot of games with your hero power against opponents who do not have healing. And here, speaking of damage, Leroy Jenkins, the draw for UCLA.
Yeah.
So now Captain plus Deckhand will immediately deal 4 damage here, along with the weapons still in play. Texas Tech, though, is still at pretty high life total because UCLA primarily used their early minions to trade with their board.
Well, so they go down to 22 or 19, and then Texas Tech will at least be at 19 or 16. With Leroy, that's 6 plus 3 more damage. So they're only missing around 5 to 7 damage remaining for UCLA in the next 2-3 turns that they can piece together. And that's very easy because Murloc Paladin does not have the board. So unless Finja is able to win the board convincingly and Texas Tech have Karam and Bone Mare to lock out any minion damage, it looks like UCLA is going to commandingly win this game.
The Finja plus Taram can potentially help swing things back a bit. Finja can obviously generate some minions. Taram itself is a large taunt. It's interesting because now UCLA, they have the option to just play the Captain and get some damage in using the they get an additional 1 here, and it allows them to weave in the hero power. So compared to just say playing Leroy this turn, you're losing a little bit of damage, but you still have Leroy in your hand.
Yes. That's where the Taram is really important because
the taunt from Taram is huge.
The taunt from Taram is really big, and how much board restriction is given to Triton and UCLA right now. If they play this Dire Mole, it's actually playing slightly around the Taram, but then they missed the 2 damage, which could be crucial to close out this game. I mean, at the very beginning of this turn, it seemed like Texas Tech was still relatively high in life, but they're actually dangerously low because of that Leroy Jenkins. And then the evaluation of whether or not you swing with this weapon or not.
There's a couple of reasons to swing and to not swing. You want to have the ability to potentially punch through a taunt to maybe deal more damage with your additional minions. Though if you do draw yourself another weapon, then you'll really wish you had used a weapon charge when you had the opportunity in many cases.
Okay. Texas Tech choosing to leave up the Southsea Captain, feeling like they'd rather not take as much damage, and plus the Sunkeeper Taram buff is not that significant.
And now with the Bone Mare in the hand for Texas Tech,
the Bone Mare,
the ability for UCLA to deal minion damage has essentially gone away. They can't get through this turn. That Leroy, it looked imposing, but no, the Texas Tech team has been able to set up taunts that will prevent it from really ever getting through. So UCLA is pretty much on kill command or bust at this point in terms of their ability to actually deal damage in addition to their hero power. And frankly, I think they may wish they had attacked with that bow when they had the chance, because they're not getting through with it again. They can use the bow plus the captain to take down the Tarim here, which does open up the Leroy possibility.
Well, let's see. If their opponent had Spike-Rich Steed, Finja would have gone down to a 2-1 and then also had 7 health, and then the captain plus the bow plus the 1-1 would have been able to get through it. But it's still kind of like you said, that 3 damage would have still need to have gone face.
Right.
And then there's another taunt that comes up and you're not getting through.
If they had attacked last turn, Texas Tech would be at 7.
Right.
They could draw kill command, Dire Mole kill command hero power, and have lethal next turn.
No, you're exactly right, because even if they didn't have Tarim, they had Spike or Steed, there'd still be another taunt, and they can't pursue with the weapon anyways. And now this has completely swung the other way because of Bone Mare.
Flanking Strike does not go face, does not do enough damage, and that is a lot of damage on the side of Texas Tech.
Right.
Looks like UCLA is going to be dropping this first game.
Can they stay alive if they Flanking Strike? Perhaps the Murloc War Leader, that's 5, 8, 10. Now the Blessing Kings will still kill them anyways, because they have a second War Leader as well. So that's going to be the game. And, you know, it's one of those things where, in the end, it didn't necessarily matter too much whether or not they hit with the bow, but the fact is that they could have set up a potential out for themselves, versus this had no chance to win at that point if their opponent had Bone Mare.
It seems just in terms of their ability to assemble damage, especially against the Finja.
Yeah.
Because Finja, once the Finja comes down, it means you're not going to win the board back. Your opponent's going to generate enough minions that you're not going to be able to continue really realistically battling for the board.
And I think they could have made a read, too, on the Paladin's hand, because they had so many awkward plays. They had Rock Pool and Noble Sacrifice. They had Rallying Blade on turn 4 and nothing, and then a Finja on 5. And it's like, it kind of makes sense that their hand was pretty heavy. Regardless of it, I think this also showcases a significant weakness in Hunter right now. If they're not able to commandingly win back the board in the early stages of the game, then they will not be able to close out the game a reliable amount of time, because it's pretty much kill command or bust when there's 18 cards in your deck.
Yeah, specifically the popularity of Bone Mare makes the burst damage from hand in terms of charge minions much less valuable than it once was against a lot of decks in the metagames where Leroy was a major player in those Hunter decks.
That's right. And also, you have to go back to, was perhaps playing the South Sea Deckhand and Candleshot on turn 1 a little bit too, too risky of a play early on, because you really need to have a very commanding board position, and all he did was play Alley Cat on 2 and then traded most of it away.
Though, if they had gotten Rockpool Hunter at that point, they would have had 5 points of damage in the board against, or rather 4 points of health on the board against them. They would have been able to exactly clear it off, but not actually push any offense.
It's true. It's something to think about, at least, going back to the drawing board. But we'll look forward to game number 2 right now, and as you can see, a new player and a new set of decks are available to both teams. We have Texas Tech available with Shaman, Warrior, Mage, and then we have Rogue, Warlock, and Warrior. Warrior, of course, is a class that people aren't really talking about at all. Definitely on the bottom third of classes in terms of play and win percentages. However, what do you feel like is Warrior's strengths right now, just a week into Kobolds and Catacombs?
I think Warrior's in a weird spot, because I feel like the 2 big builds of Warrior that you're seeing right now are essentially Pirate Warrior and then Recruit Warrior. And it feels like Pirate Warrior is a weaker version of most of the other aggressive decks. It doesn't have the explosive potential of, say, Paladin with Call to Arms. It doesn't have the early game board control of Backstab and SI that you see in Rogue. And then similarly, the Recruit deck feels like it's a weaker version of Big Priest or Big Druid, and doesn't really fit into any of the spots in the metagame to really find success. It's
true. It does feel like it gets outperformed. And it also used to have a Control Warrior build where you can play like N'Zoth, play a lot of removal, and play for the long game. But now Warlock has that option too, because they have Rin and N'Zoth, and Rin can shut down your fatigue plan. even better than Warrior is, because Warrior would outlast you by drawing more cards, but Warlock can just destroy your deck and start fatigue 5 turns earlier than you. So it's even more interesting that they lost yet one of their traditionally most powerful archetypes.
Yeah, no matter how many times you cast Dead Man's Hand, you still have no deck
yeah, exactly.
when Azuri comes down.
Well, that's just a head-to-head, let alone Warlock has so many powerful tools now with the existing area of effect, plus the fact that a lot of the new cards like the Spellstone gives them and Dark Pact give them so much longevity into the late game.
And Warrior used to be such a great N'Zoth deck. You're like, I'm bringing back Direhorn Hatchlings. They're putting more cards in my deck. I'm getting these more 3/6s and 6/9s. It's like, oh, that's adorable. I bring back Void Lord.
Yeah. Oh man, it's definitely a you versus the one she tells you not to worry about with Voidlord and Direhorn.
The Warlock decks with both Gul'dan and N'Zoth that are fetching out Voidlords with Lackey or Skull or whatever. Those decks are not fun to play long games against.
Yeah.
You're not going to ever kill all their stuff. It's just not going to happen.
Even just having some of the other synergies too, like you could be playing the N'Zoth package with Rin, or you can just be playing the Cube Warlock we're talking about, Carnivorous Cube. And you can eat your own Voidlord and activate it, or you can play Spirit Slinger Umbra and then play Voidlord in some capacity and just immediately pulls it all out. It's pretty crazy when it all gets said and done. Warlock's not being chosen, nor the Warrior. It seems like they're going to instead go for just maybe the strict power levels. If you look at Secret Mage and Murloc Paladin, 2 of the highest win rate decks on ladder right now. And I can't blame you for the first 3 games just picking your best classes and trying to see if you can get those early wins under your belt and put the other team on pressure.
Yeah, Secret Mage got a huge boost from Kobolds and Catacombs with a card we just saw in the opening hand that got mulliganed by Texas Tech, Explosive Rune. Explosive Rune is a fantastic way to not only gain tempo by eliminating your opponent's early plays if you're able to play it off of a Cabal Lackey or a Kirin Tor Mage, but also just deal damage. Oftentimes, we saw Mirror Image being played in similar sorts of decks before Kobolds and Catacombs, and there are a lot of ways for Mirror Image to backfire. Your opponent can play a Doomsayer, a Mistress of Mixtures. Well, that's not nearly as effective against Explosive Rune. You play a small minion, and you are just taking a ton of damage to the face.
Yeah, and speaking of taking a lot of damage to the face, at least the potential of it, Valenier has been one of the legendary weapons with crazy amount of damage and potential coming out from it, especially in a deck with a lot of chargers. But it's played in Murloc Paladin, which does make me feel like it's a little bit awkward at times because of the way it messes with your curve. Because you generally want to be developing on the board all the time, and Valenier is more of an investment to the late game. So how do you feel about that card in this deck?
I think Valenier is super powerful. I agree that it is a little bit weird in Murloc Paladin because you have tons of other ways to take advantage of buffing your minions and such. It does provide you with some burst damage, which Murloc Paladin doesn't have a ton of. That doesn't already require a minion on the board. Yet 4 damage isn't really a ton, but I found that the card is the most powerful when you're able to stick it on charge minions.
Yes.
For instance, I've been playing a mid-range version of Paladin right now that includes Chillblade Champion. It's a reasonable removal option, and also if you hit that with Valenier, it's a huge life swing.
Yeah, big life swing, and then there's also combo potential as well, where you can, Valenier, put on a charger and push for 10, 14 damage as a late game close potential against decks that are traditionally slower. Now, speaking of slow, it was originally a little bit rocky in the beginning stages of the Mage because they didn't really have that Mana Worm start, but now they have the beginning of what could be really powerful turns now that they have the Explosive Runes and the Kirin Tor Mage. However, the setup from Paladin's been so strong that it might feel like that their early game advantage from this is not going to be as big.
Yeah, this is an excellent draw from UCLA, and frankly, Texas Tech is going to rely a lot on the secret here that's not going to have a ton of effect. Even if this Explosive Rune goes off, it could go off on a Vilefin Inquisitor now, deal 3 damage, kill the Inquisitor. Not a huge swing. And then also the rune being triggered means that the Medivh's Valet in Texas Tech's hand is not going to have an activator. So just sacrificing this minion, yes, they take some damage, but allows UCLA to develop a board and shut down one of the most powerful cards in Texas Tech's hand.
It's true. If they did play the Righteous Protect, they could have also stuck a 1/1 onto the board here. But then they're now having the ability for Rockpool Hunter to have synergy the following turn.
Yeah, the interaction between Explosive Rune and Divine Shield, for those who might not know, the Divine Shield will absorb the damage. The minion will not die, but any damage over the creature's health will be transferred to the player. So playing Righteous Protector there would not prevent the full 6. It would only prevent 1, and then UCLA would still take 5 damage.
Right. However, I think if they played Righteous Protector first, they actually might have been a better sequencing for the following turn too, because then they still play the Rockpool Hunter on the board, and then they have a extra 1/1 on board.
It's true.
So it's one of these small little things that might make the difference, considering that a Cabal Crystal Runner was just drawn, and having that extra 1/1 could have helped bait that trade. It's just one of those things that you have to consider too when you're mapping up all these plays.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting sequencing decisions, and I actually really enjoy Explosive Rune because it's not clear how you always want to play against it.
Right.
Sometimes you want to try to prevent it from killing a minion. You want to play a big minion into it. Sometimes you just want to absorb damage.
True.
Sometimes you want to play the Divine Shield minion into it. Sometimes you want to play the higher health minion because you care more about your health. It's not as straightforward as often, say, Mirror Entity is. It's like, well, I want to play my smallest thing because I want to give them a small thing.
Yeah, it's true. Life total might become very relevant in this game. And by playing the Vilephaned Inquisitor, you gain more health. By playing Righteous Protector, you would have lost 5 health instead, even though you kept the 1/1. It might not be worth it.
The Spiteful Summoner draw from UCLA reveals a little bit more about their deck. We've seen Spiteful Summoner played in Paladin decks alongside Dino Size in particular to guarantee an 8 cost minion. You see the Battle Cry, reveal a spell from your deck, summon a random minion with the same cost. We often see this alongside sometimes just Dino Size, but usually both Dino Size and Call to Arms, since Call to Arms is just so powerful. So you're getting either a 4/4 and a random 4-drop, or just a 4/4 and a random 8-drop, which is obviously a huge tempo swing.
The debate right now is whether or not they want to play Righteous Protector and hold on to it, but I'm pretty sure you just play it. You set up for the Cobalt Scalebane and the Spiteful Summoner, and now just win the board against Secret Mage. And that's kind of one of the awkward things about Secret Mage is that if you don't win the board early, you're usually on the burn plan or on some kind of stall plan based around Ice Block. However, they do have Firelands Portal, which implies to me that Texas Tech is playing more of just the straight-up burn Secret Mage. Some Secret Mages decide to play Frost Nova, maybe play a couple of Ice Blocks, and they can extend the game long enough that they can just burn the opponent down by buying enough time. I'm not sure if Texas Tech has that right now in their Mage decks.
Yeah, the inclusion of Aluneth, the legendary weapon for Mage, gives you just that ability that sometimes you can just ignore what's going on and just start throwing burn at your opponent's face if you have either Ice Block or like you mentioned, Frost Nova to try and prevent some of that incoming damage. But here, it looks like Texas Tech recognizes, all right, well, we don't have that Aluneth, we don't have an endless stream of burn, and we need to fight for this board. It's going to be tough, though, because UCLA, with that Cobalt Scalebane, is going to be able to generate a pretty strong board here, especially if the ability lands on the Divine Shielded minion.
Well, considering that they have 2 taunts and an open-ended board state with no secrets to tangle the way minions interact with it, I feel like the Cobalt Scalebane is a really good setup here for UCLA. They could be stalling, or they also could be considering a Vilephaned Inquisitor play to go a little bit wider onto the board, set up for a better Valinir. But I think if this plus attack lands on the Divine Shield, it'll be really strong.
I like this, deciding to attack in with the 1/1 to prevent the possibility of a minion to come down that's pingable. Oh, there's Aluneth. So that is potentially an opportunity for Texas Tech to just really start putting their pedal on their foot in the gas. But they are behind significantly on this board, so it could be dangerous to invest an entire turn into doing effectively nothing on the board. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Fireball ping to take down, Fireball themselves. I wonder if that was, did they just drag that incorrectly, or were they trying to, it looks like they're like, you had to do this.
Yeah, that was...
I think that was just a straight-up misclick.
That's not right.
I didn't even see an emote for that.
The bamboozle play. UCLA doesn't even know how to process.
Trying to lull them into a false sense of security now.
Do we just have like lethal next turn? What on earth is that?
What is going on?
Maybe Texas Tech is trying to go for the assert dominance line of play.
Fireball your own
they're trying to show that
fair enough.
We don't care about this game. We're up 1-0, and we will fireball ourselves.
Imagine if they won the game now.
Yes, I would reevaluate everything I know about Hearthstone if Texas Tech was able to snag a win from here.
All right, well. Oh, they got a rot face. I'm excited.
I like rot face a lot.
Daddy will make toys out of you. Well, this game was already, I think, in UCLA's favor before the self-fireball, but now I believe it is kind of just over here. Yeah, the Valenier. Ooh, and they get a Furbolg Mossbinder.
Let's see what's out of the rot face.
Firelands portal.
Well, I want to see them trade to the 1/1 first, and then
you gotta get something off rot face. You gotta go for style points. Your opponent fireballed himself.
Yeah, I know they have lethal here, of course, but I kind of want to play this song and dance a little bit longer. Okay, all right. Well, UCLA gets a free win in Game 2 off of a very uncharacteristic mistake from Texas Tech, and I say that because I don't think they very commonly fireball their own face when trying to make a comeback on the board.
I mean, that's honestly, I'm sure that's just a slip of the finger playing on an unfamiliar device. And
that's right, mechanics. You got to practice your mechanics in Hearthstone.
People say that, mechanics aren't important in Hearthstone, but, I mean, that can happen.
I will say that when I play on my phone, my actual phone device, I do sometimes mess up when I drag.
Oh, yeah. And I have fireballed my own face.
Yeah, because the way that the cards cover the screen, and also because if you're taking back the play, like you don't want to. Like I fireball my own minions sometimes because I'm like trying to.
I'm going to do this. Wait, no, change my mind. Yes. And then you try to drag it back to your hand, and well, your face is right next to your hand.
So if you can afford to, I highly suggest if you're mobile playing on Hearthstone, be on a tablet, on a tablet of some kind.
Especially if you're playing in a high stakes situation like this one.
All right, so that one's a wash. Let's go into the next game here. It looks like UCLA. It gets a very convenient win, and I don't think that was necessarily. I don't think that it was a position where UCLA was going to lose because they had so many powerful options with the Spiteful Summoner and Valenier. But the Secret Mage, don't be fooled. Even though it lost in that position, it's still a very powerful deck.
Absolutely. I mean, and we just saw Texas Tech on screen. They were laughing. They were smiling. They're clearly still having fun, and able to laugh off that, I think, is pretty important.
All right. Seems like UCLA has the Rogue queued up here against Priest. This is a matchup that really depends on how well the Priest can answer the Rogue's threats early on. And with the Sonya Shadow Dancer and Elven Minstrel, does kind of indicate that it is playing more of a tempo variant. It is possible that they have some kind of miracle version of it, but I highly doubt that is the case, considering that Miracle is very dependent on spell draw as opposed to minions, like Sonya being put into the deck lists.
And Texas Tech with the dragon version of Kazakus Priest here. We've seen this rise in popularity quite a bit since the introduction of Duskbreaker in the recent set. A lot of players seem to be largely in favor of the more traditional Kazakus Priest and not including dragons, but dragons do have a lot of powerful tools they offer the deck now. Speaking of powerful tools, that is Prince Keleseth in the opening hand for UCLA, though the rest of their hand is quite expensive.
Yeah. The thing I want to focus on is the deck list from Texas Tech. They have an Alexstrasza in hand, which kind of leans towards the list that Hyped has popularized. Mm-hmm. And that is right. You are not a time traveler. I am talking about Hyped, who formerly competed in Hearthstone.
In 2014.
In 2014 with Miracle Rogue. He is still playing Hearthstone and hit #1 legend and is still #1 legend almost a week later with a Dragon Highlander Priest focused around Alexstrasza over Prophet Valen. And you're able to utilize Dragon synergies very effectively through Duskbreaker, Dragonid Operative, and Netherspite Historian, while being able to still threaten huge 2-turn lethals with Alexstrasza, Holy Fire, and Mind Blast. very, very effective deck list, and if you are a competitive player and want to climb very high, that is a deck that I would suggest, assuming that you have the Dust Collection to support. It's a pretty expensive deck. Prince Kalseth, not really too much to think about, and we'll see if the Priest can handle it. And here's something I want to ask you. If both decks draw above average, which right now it seems like is the case because Texas Tech has the Kazakus, has the Shadow Reaper Anduin, who do you think is favored?
I think the Priest is generally still favored. In particular, if they find their key removal options like Duskbreaker. I do think that Texas Tech is likely to struggle if they don't find good board clear early on. Their hand is pretty heavy on some of their powerful cards, but they're expensive cards. And with the UCLA pickup of that South Sea Captain, ooh, but then they drew Patches right away. Spoke too soon. That Captain's looking a lot worse.
Yeah, the entire benefit of having the Kalseth early on is so that way Patches can put a lot of pressure, but even more so, UCLA just lost a draw.
Yeah, they were going to be able to play Captain, get a 3-3 and another 3-3 on the board for 3 mana. Now they get to choose between a 3-3 or a 2-2.
Yes.
So
now
the pressure is just so much lower.
I like the South Sea Captain play anyways because it develops the most tempo onto the board. But you know, the thing about holding onto Patches is that it still has use later on. It has the ability to pocket to pair it, with the Vilespine Slayer, and that fits a very nice 5, 6, 7. Cobalt Scalebane, Patches, and Vilespine Slayer and Bone Mirror. So all you really want to do is patch up this turn 4.
Patch up?
Yeah.
Can Patches do that?
You can too. You can play Patches on turn 4, and then try to see what you can do from there.
And now Texas Tech, they have a few options here. They could just drop a Cabal Talon Priest. Just the best stats on the board. I think they want to hold on to their coin because they do have such an expensive hand here.
Yeah.
And they do just that. A deckhand is a nice draw for UCLA, though. That can potentially just straight up trade with the Talon Priest.
Yes.
Which does prevent it from disrupting the rest of their minion base right now. And frankly, this patches up their turn. They didn't really have that much to do this turn. And this allows them an effective trade and protecting the rest of their board.
Well punned, Kibler. The South Sea Deckhand trade is very effective to push damage, and the coin key from Texas Tech is very important because obviously they could have coined the Priest of the Feast or the Kazakus, but the thing is, like you mentioned, the Shadow Reaper Anduin, and they need a response to Bone Mirror. If Bone Mirror comes down on 7, they need to be able to coin out Shadow Reaper Anduin and immediately answer it, because that's how Temper Rogues win. They need to Bone Mirror curve and hope that their opponent can't deal with it through Dragonfire Potions, Shadow Reaper Deaths, and Shadow Reaper Anduin. At the same time, I actually don't entirely hate Patches being pushed, but the Duskbreaker's too threatening. So we'll see how Texas Tech chooses to respond. Looks like they're going to be a little bit greedier and play Kazakus, considering that they can pick up big AoE.
Well, there's no damage mode here. They do have draw 2 cards, which is a very popular mode, though it is less effective against Tempo Rogue because you care more about immediate board presence.
Yes.
Deal 5 damage is good because that immediately answers a Cobalt Scalebane, assuming it was not buffed by the Prince Kalseth.
Right. And deal 5 damage is really important against the Scalebane coming up on curve here.
And deal 5 draw 2 is the mode they chose, was the mode that I would expect them to take.
Ooh. Now that you also saw a Kazakus Potion, that even layers your fear even more, because they kept coin, so they could have coin Dragonfire Potion, they could have regular Kazakus Potion. I think you're convinced that they don't have Dustbreaker, though, because it felt like a really logical turn to play it to avoid taking too much damage.
It's interesting here. You have a few options as UCLA.
Yes.
You can choose to try to play around the AoE mode and just play the Scalebane.
Yeah.
Which it looks like what they're doing.
This is, of course, weaker to single target removal, because then they're condensing their board, so 5 damage is a little bit more devastating.
Though the buff from the Scalebane on the Captain here will make it a significant threat even after the damage mode. And this is a part of the reason that you often want to take damage plus AoE or damage plus minion. Damage plus demon is another powerful mode in the matchup because you care so much about just immediately getting board presence.
Did we get confirmation on the Kazakhstan potion, by the way? Because I think that Texas Tech first options that was the best was probably freeze 2 minions, given the state of their hand and the boards. Like they were looking at draw 2 cards maybe, or transform.
They took draw 2 and deal 5 damage.
They take draw 2?
They did.
Okay. The draw 2 definitely is very greedy, and they most likely anticipated the ability to dig for more answers, but look at how much damage is going to be coming into the next couple turns here.
They're actually holding on to it.
Okay, so they're going to coin out this Twilight Caller.
Twilight Acolyte, I believe,
Acolyte?
is the card.
The Pyre synergy still exists.
It's true.
And now we have an opportunity for the Vile Spine Slayer to come down too, set up for a Bone Mare.
And the use of the coin is huge. The use of the coin from Texas Tech means that they cannot end win until 8, which means that if they get Bone Mared on 7, they are getting hit again on 8 by a Bone Mare without the ability to clear. So
then they Shadow Reaper Anduin.
The use of the coin for something before Anduin is always really dangerous in this matchup for exactly that reason. You really want to ensure you have answers to Bone Mare, and Texas Tech recognizing or feeling that they needed to deal with the board right away and couldn't wait for that protection.
Well, I think that I still am convinced that it's a product of them choosing a value Kazakhstan potion as opposed to a tempo-based one to freeze the board so that they can develop onto it and not have to use the coin as liberally as they just did. And given that maybe the draw would have helped them land really important cards like their Dustbreaker, they're still just sitting in a tough position right now.
I mean, they still have that Kazakhstan potion, but now it's not a particularly attractive target.
Yeah. And even now, it's still the ability to freeze the board is really important.
I'm actually pretty surprised of their choice last turn, because if they had used the Kazakhstan potion, they kill the minion. They're only facing 4 more damage, right?
Right.
And then they still have coin and they still have Shadow or Death in their hand. And this turn, if they really wanted to, they would have the option to even priest the Feast Coin Death, which would get them that life back if they felt like they were under a ton of pressure. And if they didn't feel like they were under that much pressure, they still have the coin to potentially end if there is a Bone Mare that comes down.
All right, now we have to stop and think for a second if we want to change our plan, because the Elven Minstrel allows you to go a little bit wider, but with the coin already having been used, the biggest threat to your board is Psychic Scream.
Or Dragonfire.
Or Dragonfire Potion, but a little bit less so considering that that you can at least force your opponent to lose something. Because like the big thing about Psychic Scream is that you lose everything and whatnot. But at least they lose their Priest of the Feast with the Dragonfire Potion. You can also backstab to a play around Dragonfire Potion as well.
Well, you still just have a dagger up, and your opponent doesn't have a free hero power. With their coin gone, they'd have to have Binding Heal next turn or Powered Shield to keep Priest of the Feast on the board.
Well, if you backstab the Priest of the Feast, you play around Dragonfire Potion, I think, by just trading.
Oh, sure. Sure, with the trade. Yeah.
So I think that's best hedge, and then you can still push 6. And now with no Shadow or Death, no coin, I think Texas Tech cornered themselves a little bit here.
And that's Holy Fire.
Okay.
So Holy Fire on the Bone Mare can leave just the captain.
It's good enough.
And then we'll put them back up to 17, which does give them a little bit of breathing room against the damage.
Yeah, because Aka's Potion is probably too greedy again, because you're not really going to be doing anything besides Shadow Reaper Anduin, and most likely Alex Strozzi yourself the next turns to stay alive. So I think Holy Fire stalls just long enough in case your opponent happens to have Leroy to close out the game.
All right, well, staying alive as priests are wont to do. And now UCLA needs to recognize the threat of Anduin coming down next turn.
Here's something actually kind of funny. Because the Kelseth buff, Southsea Captain gets killed by the Shadow Reaper
actually just thinking exactly that.
Wow.
Ends up leaving him with just the Minstrel.
But does it matter? Another Bone Mare is coming in. That's going to be 9 damage next turn. Cowboys and Texas Tech will go up to 15. This is still really tight. And then you have Sonya as an opportunity to extend that range, depending on what Texas Tech's setup is. such a tenuous situation that's been sort of a butterfly effect from the very mid stages of the game, starting from when they played Kazakhstan and chose their potion. And now Texas Tech plays Shattery Branduin, but do they have enough time install? Alex Straza can help them buy even more time. But the pressure is still coming here from pretty hot from UCLA.
Yeah, Bone Mare does connect 9 right now. Texas Tech down to just 6 life. And there's 15
right
on the backswing. So Alex Straza does nothing. Alex Straza just delays the inevitable.
Is there anything that they can discover from Dragonite Operative? Dragonfire Potion.
Dragonfire, but they're short on mana. If they had 1 more mana, they could ping Dragonfire Ping.
Yeah.
But they can only kill 1 of the minions with Dragonfire plus Ping because they don't have a Raza.
Can they draw anything from Kazakhstan Potion? They can draw Silence.
If they Kazakhstan Potion, they could draw Holy Smite.
I don't think this deck list plays Holy Smite, as far as I remember. Looking for anything.
That Psychic Scream would have been good at the start of the turn.
So this is also another thing, too. If they shot the Bone Mare, which also surprised me, they could have also gone for a Silence, draw, or a Shadow of Visions, kill off the Bone Mare, and only leave a 3-2.
Right.
They'd still be dead because the SI7 agent, but they didn't leave themselves much room to work here. They could have set this up for another out. And these little small decisions end up costing Texas Tech the game, and UCLA is now going to win 2 in a row.
Yep, Leroy would have ended it no matter what. But yeah, UCLA does take a, well, not really as relevant a lead in the same sense as a normal match. It's important to recognize this is not a standard conquest match. This is, as we've been calling it, last player standing. So now 2 of the players on Texas Tech each have a loss, while only 1 player on UCLA has a loss. So if a player receives 2 losses, that player and that player's decks are out for the rest of the match.
They have to leave the stage or leave the backdrop area. And again, the players are playing live from the Blizzard headquarters in Irvine, California. They have flown all the way to compete, and leaving the team would definitely be a big detriment for the communication aspect of the competition. But this is the average result. We expected at the end of the first 3 games for one team to have 2 wins and the others to have one. And so now this is where the actual strategy really kicks in. I think in the very beginning, you can kind of do what you want, lock into class, play a powerful deck based on what you want. But let's see what the second wave of decks is going to do, because that's going to be, in my opinion, the defining aspect of the series.
It is important to note those class locks on the various decks. That means that deck cannot be used again until the player has used their other 2 classes. So you can't just play your Kazakhstan Priest deck the entire time. You've got to mix things up and find wins with those less popular and perhaps less powerful classes.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense too, depending on how they match up. So if they announce their players or they announce their classes, they now can choose based off a limited selection of classes from your opponents. So now Priest could have 1 or 2 bad matchups, but if your opponent already played the best deck or best classes against it, then it's a lot safer of a guarantee to get that win.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the dynamic of the players do work together through all of these games, but if a player is eliminated, as you mentioned, they are out of the ability to communicate in these matches. We've seen previous team events where essentially one player can kind of guide everything, but that's not true in this format. You can't have a team captain who calls all the shots, because if that team captain is eliminated, well, you have to be able to operate without them.
Yes, right.
All right, well, we are into Druid versus Priest, and this could be an explosive matchup. The Druid is very, very capable of some really powerful draws. Some of them supported by that little guy in the middle right there, the innocuous 1/3 Beast for 1 in Dire Maul, who is a very, very stable target for Mark of Yasharaj. But Texas Tech throws back the Maul and find a Mark of Yasharaj now, but with no immediate Beast to play it on. I'm curious about the decision to keep 2 Fireflies and throw back the Mole.
Yeah, the Fireflies ensures that you have a curve through turn 2, but turn 3, you're going to look for a much better play.
It feels like 1 Firefly, 1 Mole if you want to ensure your curve through 2.
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
Because then you also have a enabler for the Mark of Yasharaj card draw as well. Well,
the double Firefly keep is only better if you draw some kind of wide buff,
right,
like a Mark of Lotus or a Power of the Wild.
And you do have more of those.
Yes.
You do have 4 copies of those as opposed to 2 copies of Mark of Yashiraj that makes the mole better. Oh, well, we've seen patches drawn 2 games in a row now, though the previous team that drew patches won.
That's right. They drew patches.
100% correlation between drawing patches and winning the game.
And also, it's important to note that Priest was also supposed to be a big, heavy lifter in your lineup. It's supposed to get the wins when you need to. And that was a huge detriment for Texas Tech's lineup here. But also compounded by the fact that UCLA is indeed playing a Galactic Crawler. So that is also going to be a potential big shutdown. If not on the patches, then on the South Sea Captain that's also these deck lists. Wild Pyromancer. So it seems like UCLA is playing a traditional Highlander Priest. Galactic Crawler already is a little bit questionable, considering that you need to have a lot of Dragon synergies and you don't have many flexible deck spots. But Pyromancer almost guarantees that they're playing the Prophet Valen combo, which is what makes the Highlander Priest so dangerous, is that they have so many different tools. And if you're going into a closed decklist format, you can definitely be surprised, at least the first match. In the semifinals, you have no information. Going to the finals, you might have some information that can help you make a more educated guess on certain plays and lines.
Yeah, there's lots of possible inclusions, like Galactic Crawler, for instance. Galactic Crawler, not a card that shows up in all of these decks. Similarly, Pyromancer is more of a universal inclusion, but still difficult to play around all the possible options. At this point, there's no information as to whether this is a traditional version of Raza Priest or a Dragon version.
Yes.
Maybe you need to be worried about playing around Duskcaller at this point. Makes things a lot more difficult against decks that are potentially more unpredictable.
Exactly. And if I'm Texas Tech, as much as I'd like to go wide under the board here, I'm starting to think about maybe using Mark of Yashiraj to start putting pressure as well to the Priest. The longer you give Priest to sort their resources, the more dangerous it is. And you don't have Savage Roar, so you can't reasonably force real action. Like, you can't actually do much if you just go the triple 1-drops here in this position. However, Mark of Yashiraj is so important for drawing a card because how flimsy your hand is.
Well, yeah, one of the problems with the deck like Aggro Druid is you do have so many low-impact draws. We see, especially with the patches having been drawn, Bloodsuck Corsair, that's a 1-2. It's a really weak card. So not being able to get the card draw off Mark of Yashiraj means that Texas Tech is going to continue to run low on resources. Oof, but that is a powerful draw from UCLA. The Powered Shield to combine with the Wild Pyromancer. I think they can just easily clear the board here. They can also
they're stalling.
Just kind of hang out.
Yeah.
Because they do have the Pyromancer and the shield and the coin and Potion of Badness, they can just sit back and relax while these 1/1s deal no more damage than their hero power can deal with, and just wait and save this removal for a potential living mana. And now another Bloodsuck Corsair. Texas Tech is not feeling too good about this draw.
Yeah, and I think I want my opponent to play AoE the next turn. So if I'm Texas Tech, they have the Dustbreaker, or they have a Wild Pyromancer, just throw out just make your opponent have it. Because then you want to set it for living mana the following turn. I'm wondering if you want to play only one pirate though, like maybe Bloodseer, Corsair, and Hero Power. Maybe just Pat. No, I don't want to play Pat.
The problem is, what is you're like making them have it really even induce? You're putting 1 more power in play, 2 more power in play. Yeah. Ooh, look at this nightmarish power play here. We're all the way up to 5 power.
The threat of Savage Roar is pretty significant.
It's true. That is somewhat scary.
But they also just show that they have patches in hand.
Right.
So that's reduced the chances significantly. And if I'm UCLA, I might even get greedier in this position. But they have a very powerful opportunity just through Pyromancer clear. They can also just Galactic Crawler. If they Galactic Crawler 1 million heal to 23, there's 4 plus the 10, so 14, 15 damage to Savage Roar. If they have Patches Savage Roar, they have 5, 8 plus 12, 17 damage. Because they can't hero power.
Oh, sure.
Must consider. like to play with fire?
All right, yeah.
Full clear in tempo. Okay, I can buy it. It is weaker to specific what's going to happen, though.
It does still leave you with a Pyromancer on the board and a cheap spell in hand. So if Living Mana does come down, you can Living Mana.
Ooh.
You can Living Mana, and you get their mana. You trade their Living Mana in, and you have 2 minions on the board that can take out the other
True.
2 other Living Mana tokens if you want. So you are ramping yourself and killing 3 of their Living Mana treants, assuming you don't even just draw another cheap spell and potentially kill everything.
Yeah, if I'm Texas Tech, I probably want to just kill off this Pyromancer.
We're just going Patch's Punch.
I might patch his Savage Roar and kill both minions, and then just set it for 6 mana living, turn 6 living mana.
Sure.
So it's a very clean clear. Patches actually get some value, and your living mana actually gets stronger. For 2 turns, it actually gets stronger, so you can set up alternative plays. It scales pretty well. Oh!
Well,
There's still a turn. There's still a turn Texas Tech can living mana and then do some damage with it before getting screamed into oblivion.
I think that from UCLA's perspective, they're essentially just figuring out, okay, what do we do against living mana here? And they do have the Psychic Scream that can totally dominate the living mana tokens and prevent them from giving any mana crystals back. They're going to play the Priest of the Feast. This does let them gain some life to give themselves a buffer against the damage dealt by living mana, as well as steal one of those treants and get themselves some life.
Well, I guess the good news is that they have Dragonfire Potion. They're damaging the Priest of the Feast. That's about it. That's the only silver lining they can find right now. Things are looking terrible for Texas Tech, and that's largely because they chose to bring Aggro Druid against a class that has so many AoE effects that it's there's almost no chance to fight.
Mark of the Lotus, that actually gives them it gives them life buffs their board. This is heal for 3. They can Mark of the Lotus now.
Gain a mana crystal.
Yeah, then Potion of Madness, steal 1, hit the other, get themselves some mana ramp, and kill off one of these.
Just gross. There's nothing really you can do.
And it's interesting. So they're at 27. They can choose. I think they may even choose not to. They could choose not to kill one to prevent the possibility of like a roar, but they're too high of a life total to really need to worry about roar. They're just in the driver's seat so firmly that they're not going anywhere. This game essentially is already over.
Yeah, just the fact that this Priest of the Feast can stick onto the board is already indication that Texas Tech is out of their element right now. They can't really do much in this position. Double Enchanted Raven. I'm trying to think of ways they can potentially win from this spot, and they would have to require another living mana being drawn and no answer. But we also know that UCLA has a Psychic Scream. They were originally thinking about, oh yeah, maybe we Psychic Scream and they have no mana and they just keep drawing these tree ants with mana crystals. But now they even have the flexibility of playing Shadow Reaper Anduin this turn for no Battlecry value, just to set up for a way to win the game in the next couple turns.
Or just Akanai and ping off one of these minions, leaving them with literally just a 2/2 and nothing else, nothing in hand.
It's all good.
Yeah, every possible option for UCLA here is likely game-winning, except for, well, maybe Fireball in their own face.
Even then.
Even then, they'd probably be fine.
Probably win.
Yeah, even if they just cast like 4 spells with this Priest of the Feast Akanai combo in play, they would still probably win this game.
It's probably a little bit better to deny Marka Yashiraj a second living mana being picked up. That's kind of what we're talking about. There's also, I think there's a little trick where Texas Tech can trade in a 2/2 and then still gain 7 crystals. Okay. They want to favor the damage.
Get the damage. Well,
yeah. Actually, kind of want to Psychic Scream this to clear, but I guess it's all good.
There are any number of ways that you can play this. I like Psychic Screaming just to crush their souls. That's the primary reason I want a Psychic Scream, is because it leaves your opponent with absolutely nothing, like not even a mana crystal. Even if this wasn't the best play, this is what I would do in this position, because you are so thoroughly destroying them. Sorry, you can't cast your 2-drop. It's turn 10. You got 1 mana.
It's brutal. Absolutely brutal.
It's like, wait, there must be a bug. It's turn 10 and I can't cast this. What's going on? Oh, look, there's Velen. Well,
yeah.
The writing is on the wall in like big block letters.
Cool. Valen first. Doesn't really matter to me. It's pushing 7 damage, I guess. But you don't want to play Shadow Reaper into it afterwards. Or maybe you can. I think they're so far ahead it doesn't really matter. We're thinking second living mana was an out.
Okay, there we go. And rather than be subjected to more of this horrific torture, Texas Tech decides to concede. But despite this being the 3rd win for UCLA, there's still no players eliminated from Texas Tech. So far, each of their losses has been distributed 1 per player.
Yeah, that could be a strategy that a lot of teams go for, and one that you can target. You're like, well, who hasn't played or who hasn't lost a life yet? That person can play so that they're a little bit safer. And
well, they're in order. They're continuing to play against the same pairing. That we
it's set for the rest of the match?
Right.
I thought after the first 3 they choose who they want.
I believe it's in order, and then one player is eliminated, they need to go up still in that order.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I didn't know that. I thought it was the fact that they could choose, but that's going to be relevant, I guess, as time goes on. Right. So taking a look at how things have transpired so far, UCLA is up 3-1. Only have to win 3 more games. And starting to get a little bit dicey here for Texas Tech, because any of their players losing from this point means elimination from the player area. And so... Welcome back to the TESPA Collegiate Finals. Hope you guys are enjoying the broadcast so far. Tweet at us at Team TESPA or Facebook.com/Team TESPA for some of the questions that you want to throw to us. And if you guys have a question featured here, then we'll give you a Dalaran Flame card back, courtesy of TESPA themselves. I've got a couple questions. I won't say them just yet, but some of them are pretty generic. Some of them are very specific about fashion and lifestyle choices. So I'm curious to see what the general populace has to say.
I'm curious who those are for.
They tagged both of us. So
okay.
Coming up, we have game number 5 between UCLA and Texas Tech. If you're joining us halfway, we are playing a last player standing best of 11. Each player has 2 lives for their respective teams and 3 unique classes. When they have lost twice, they are eliminated from the player area until no players remain, hence the name of a format. It's a working title. We'll see what ends up sticking.
Colloquial.
Yes, I mean, we can come up with some ambiguous term like coalition to try to explain, but that still doesn't really help describe.
All right, well, this is a crucial match for Texas Tech. If they lose this particular game, they will have one of their players eliminated from the match. UCLA, as we see, has won 3 games, has taken one of those wins against each of the players from Texas Tech. So from now on, a player from Texas Tech loses, they are out.
Yes. Secret Mage has a lot of potential. Mage is just a class that's very good against Shaman in general, but Secret Mage in particular has a very interesting dynamic with Shaman because Shaman's so good at picking apart an early game board, and they also have such small minions that things like Mirror Entity and the explosive runes won't have nearly as big of a tempo swing as you might imagine, and without early game pressure through minions, they're completely dependent on the bird. However, when you look at things like Medivh the Guardian, that again leans towards a very traditional Secret Mage. There's no Pyroblast Ice Block setups that seem to be the case here for UCLA.
what to do.
Pretty poor draw in this particular matchup for UCLA. They would much prefer to have Arcanologist rather than any of those other 2-drops. They'd love to have additional, actual removal spells or secrets. Right now they have a lot of things that care about them, but none of them. And we see they're just going to go ahead and coin out Medivh's Valet here. I like this a lot, recognizing that this is a matchup that is very much about the early board presence and not wanting to concede that for value's sake against Texas Tech here.
Well, Texas Tech has a Flame Tongue Totem for the trade. However, that does leave them a little bit more vulnerable. So if their opponent develops anything to threaten the Flame Tongue Totem, they can't defend it guaranteed without a Stone Claw Totem off their hero power. I do like the Barnes inclusion into the Shaman deck. I have played a significant amount of Shaman at the beginning of the expansion. Definitely came with the same conclusions. It's a little bit weaker than where I think it should be. However, I do think that some of the evolve potentials is what's really scary. The fact that there's so many weak minions in Kobolds and Catacombs that are understated makes the evolve really, really vulnerable to a lot of bad situations.
Speaking of vulnerable, this Flame Tongue Totem has nothing to protect it here. No Jade Claws or Pirate for patches from Texas Tech. They could try to Maelstrom Portal here and hope for a Miracle Charger. But other than that, it will be, they're just going to go ahead and develop some smaller minions and leave Flame Tongue Totem to die. That Arcane Intellect is an interesting draw for UCLA. They could potentially Mana Worm into AI here, which I would not be surprised by. They could also just use their hero power and clear off one of the, clear off the Murloc in order to protect their Sorcerer's Apprentice from the board.
Yeah.
I would expect the attack into the Flame Tongue Totem 100%. And after that, there is the question of whether they want to use the AI while they still have the Apprentice in play and potentially dig for more removal that can kill the Primal Fin Totem, or just ping down the Murloc to protect the Sorcerer's Apprentice.
So Flame Tongue Totem already has been used, so the threat of being punished is significantly lowered. There was also an alternative play of setting up a second Sorcerer's Apprentice, going for Arcane Intellect, which would have landed this Frostbolt, but that's a little bit too greedy, so I think this was the best hedge here, or halfway play from UCLA.
All right, well, an Evolve picked up for Texas Tech does give them some potentially explosive results from that Barnes next turn. They can even just drop a thing from below here and kill the Sorcerer's Apprentice, and they'll get another Murloc. Their opponents will need to get through the thing from below. Though UCLA does have that Fireball that can potentially take down the thing from below and buff their Mana Worm high enough to kill the Primal Fin Totem.
So I think because of that possibility, and they've been holding a couple of cards very awkwardly, and there's a threat of Fireball or some kind of removal similar to that, I'd consider hero powering, reduce the thing from below, and try to see if Maelstrom Portal can have a really big impact here. But the detriment of that...
Well, if the hero power hits spell power, it is incredibly powerful.
Yeah. And this was also okay.
The taunt is excellent as well.
Yeah.
And this also gives them a wider board for the Evolve next turn. So even if there is removal from UCLA, this allows them to still have a pretty wide board that's going to get hit by that Evolve alongside the Barnes.
Exactly. So the reason why I was kind of pausing for a while in between some of our discussion was I was trying to evaluate the lineup here from Texas Tech, and they paired Shaman, Mage, and Warrior together. And so the options that they had were Shaman or Warrior up against potentially Mage, and so that's why they went with Shaman. And so they took a very big risk here. If UCLA was playing a control Mage of any kind, the Shaman would be completely destroyed most cases, but it has a good chance against Secret Mage because it can fight so well against the board early on, and they haven't taken a single point of damage yet. So things like the Fireball Frostbolt are only going to be used as removal until they're able to dominate the board, if they're able to get back onto the board. I mean, the Barnes Evolve is going to be really strong next turn.
Runs out on.
This Mirror Image was actually a pretty smart pickup, too, to defend some of their investment onto this board. It's like UCLA is strong, has correctly identified that they really need to have some board dominance of any kind.
I think in this position for Texas Tech, you almost have to just go for Barnes Evolve. You end up just being in... I guess you can Jade Lightning down the Mana Worm, but you're still just in a position where you don't have like a powerful swing after that. You know, you still have a bunch of small minions facing down against. It is just a Sorcerer Apprentice at this point, but as your opponent is pinging down your minions with their hero power, any kind of other removal. Yeah, this is what they're going for. Barnes gonna hit a lot of big things, like a Corridor Creeper, for instance. No, is a Mana Tide Totem, which is a good hit if you're not evolving. But the evolve comes in. What's in the box? Oh my God, that's a disaster! A 1/1 4-drop, a 1/1 5-drop.
Lorewalker Cho.
Lorewalker Cho isn't bad here, amusingly enough, because if your opponent has fireballs, though it is kind of awkward if you're planning on using Jade Lightning as removal.
Oh God.
Wow, they got so memed right there.
I wonder.
Nah, there's no way about it. Catastrophically awful.
A disaster. You expect something like a 4/4 and a 5/5 from your 4-drop and your 5. Maybe, but you got 2 1/1.
I mean, one of them is from the new expansion, which is why we're talking about how Kobolds and Catacombs has complicated evolve situations. From Texas Tech.
I suppose they could have gotten the Darkness. That would have been worse.
That would have been strictly worse. You are correct. Interesting ping choice, unless UCLA is intent on taking a value trade here. Okay.
Okay, that I think is reasonable.
And then are they playing the Valet in this position?
I wonder if they fireball the Radiant Elemental because they're afraid of infinite evolutions. If there's the unstable evolution, they're going for it. Yeah. So this is respect to the new unstable evolution card, because if their opponents had it, they could have just used it right away.
Well, it's also, I guess,
they probably would have evolved their 1/1 4-drop and 1/1 5-drop, but
protection against protection for the Mana Worm as well.
Right. The primary reason that they would use Fireball there is just to protect their board. That Mana Worm is going to fireball their opponent every time it attacks from this point onward.
Yes. Blackpaw seems to be pretty appetizing of a draw here. I think Texas Tech doesn't want to receive 9 damage, though.
I wonder
what they're thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how defensively you can play at this point, as far as just your life total is concerned, because Jade Lightning Thing from Below is a pretty reasonable swing here. You do only have a 1/1 Jade coming off of it. Same thing is true with Aya. If they had played Aya, their next turn could have been hero power into this same sequence.
Right. I think I would like the totem a little bit better because.
Oh my God.
Oh geez, what a draw here for UCLA. Things like the Cabal Crystal Runner is pretty poor for tempo. They have 2 cards that that could be much higher value.
I think we're saying more. Right.
And also here's the thing too. They have Medivh the Guardian to override Island at key moments. Like they say, okay, we've drawn enough cards.
Wreak havoc.
However, they have ceded tempo over to Shaman.
And they drew no removal. All 3 of the cards they drew are just minions or reactive in the case of explosive runes. So this is an opportunity for Texas Tech to firmly take the board back with this Aya and really start the pressure.
Yeah.
Golems are a girl's best friend.
Aya is not to be messed with.
A Cabal Crystal Runner. There's a Kirin Tor Mage here.
Oh yeah, so you can play Kirin Tor Secret.
You can play Kirin Tor Secret and Medivh's Valet.
Yeah.
Which does help kill the Aya at least, though it does leave a 3/3 if you do kill the Aya.
So I guess it's the same. You kill off a 2 power minion, or you kill off Aya, you still leave it's about the same amount of power difference. But it helps you get rid of some annoying death battles. It does make it weaker to Bloodlust though. Ooh, Jade Claws.
Jade Claws and Maelstrom Portal are pretty nice here. That allows you to kill off 2 of the you can actually clear your opponent's board entirely here and make a 4/4.
Are you wanting to clear off everything, or do you want to?
You may just leave up at least one of these 2/2s. I think you punch one with your Jade Claws, but you may not trade at all.
Yeah.
You may just push the rest of the damage to the face here.
Hard to turn down 10 damage.
It's also true. You have to imagine that your opponent has picked up Firelance Portal, a Fireball, so your Thing from Below is very likely to die anyway. to some sort of removal, so you might as well just send it to the face rather than try and protect it from this minion. They decided they want to take the value trade, though.
I like it. Makes sense, because Fireland Portals take the entire turn. And this is an argument against the portals, specifically because there's situations where it's a little bit too expensive. And if you don't have the board control, you don't have the opportunity to leverage the Fireland Portal into anything besides defensive plays.
They can play the counterspell here, and then, if they want, play both the Crystal Runners. That does leave them in a position they can't ping.
Yeah.
And there's a 2-power a 3-1 in play that should be taking off significant damage with a ping, though not really have the ability to contest.
They're dead either way.
15, yeah. It looks like they're actually just going to die.
Yeah.
I'm late.
No, there's 13, 14, yeah, 15 on the board, exactly 15, even taking off the 3-power minion.
Yeah, they needed to portal this turn. I think they may have rushed this turn a lot.
This world to our will.
Yeah, this is actually still just lethal, right? 9, 10, 11, 12, 13,
Yeah,
14, 15.
They were alive. They just portaled the 5/5. Now, Texas Tech could also be respecting the ice block. They could just say, like, well,
It's true.
Maybe we don't play.
But don't you still just go for it? I mean, what you have to break ice block anyway, so...
What you can do is play Doppelgangster. No, you can't, because there's 2 secrets up. You go for it.
And it is, in fact, lethal. That resolves.
Yeah, this was a pretty big mistake here from UCLA that cost them the game. And now Texas Tech has a lot of life breathed into the series, because losing this one would have been extremely devastating. Oh, it was shaping up to be quite the battle.
Yeah,
tug of war on both ends.
Yeah, and this format tends to lead to that. We saw even, as you mentioned, the sort of inaugural introduction of this format at BlizzCon, where it looked like it was going to be a blowout, where it was just Kranich left for his team, and he was able to battle back all the way from just a single deck. It was pretty epic.
Almost everybody was like, he's not going to do it. He's not gonna. And then, slowly we were just like, oh, man. And the crowd was super into it as well. It was really fun to watch, at least from the stands, as we take a look at the overall snapshot of how the series has panned out. We're going to go into Kinix versus Cowboys in a second here. And Warlock Warrior up against Warlock Rogue, which means that I feel like UCLA, if they have a control Warlock, will be putting it on deck soon.
The Warlock, as we mentioned earlier, generally recognized to be perhaps the second most powerful class behind Priest right now.
Yes.
In large part due to the massive infusion of power that it got in the most recent set. Void Lord, along with the recruit effects, such as both Possessed Lackey and Master Oakheart, various builds. And then the life gain that you get from Dark Pact and Amethyst Spellstone, both can just give you so much survivability in the games where you don't just get out of turn 5 Void Lord.
Yeah, and now we see what the teams will be choosing, because they also could be playing something that we're not expecting. Zoo Warlock is still definitely a viable deck. And we'll, with patches in the hand, does end up leaning towards that case. I do not know about a control Warlock that plays patches.
All right, it looks like a Zoo Mirror, and in a Zoo Mirror, a pair of creepers.
Oh, it's a double creeper. Okay.
A double creeper.
It's really good.
In the spoilers, he was a sleeper.
When you trade minions, it becomes cheaper.
Yeah, I don't remember all the meme, but...
You guessed it right.
I'm Corridor Creeper. This is the card that has really jumped out early in the expansion as one of the metagame-defining cards in Kobolds and Catacombs. And it's particularly in a matchup like this, it is especially powerful, because both players are going to be playing a number of minions in the early game. They will trade, and there's a Creeper. All right. Those minions trading will reduce the cost of the creepers, and then you have a huge tempo swing turn where you drop sometimes double creepers for even 0, and that can just absolutely swing the game in one player's favor.
That being said, I kind of like UCLA. Wait,
ooh, this is actually a control creeper.
So, I was thinking about this too, because Corridor Creeper just goes really well in any kind of defensive. Oh, it just goes well in any deck. Let's be honest here. But specifically in Control Warlock, you're often killing so many things, including your own, because of this symmetrical AOE that Corridor Creeper does have. Does have a lot of game against that. And I was going to say that even if it was a Zoo Mirror, I would actually favor UCLA's hand despite the double Corridor Creeper, because they have so much proactive tempo and Texas Tech has so much reactive cards.
Well, picking up a Stonehill Defender that has become a Warlock All-Star since the recent expansion due to the inclusion of Voidlord and Rin the First Disciple. Lots of power picks you can find with that card now, and also give you a little bit of breathing room against aggro.
Is it worth coining it out here?
I think they're going to save their... Nah, I think they're going to save their coin for later power plays, for sure. Going to take a little bit of damage there.
Oh, wow, what a draw.
Find themselves a Mixtures.
Trust me.
And Gul'dan is a power card, but not one that you're looking for this early in the game. So the South Sea Captain will find patches at this point if they want to go for the Captain, but it doesn't really... It lets them trade into the board. They can clear off the Mistress of Mixtures with the patches, and the Imp can take down the Librarian, leaving just a 1/1 and the Captain in play for UCLA.
Yeah, the two things have happened here really importantly for on both sides here. Texas Tech has revealed what kind of deck they are. Yeah. This Mistress of Mixtures all but indicates it, and they're also saving the coin for a while. But what's really important too is Texas Tech will have Corridor Creeper available next to double Corridor Creeper and win the board. And UCLA will be behind. And those who creep first often are in a significant advantage. It's very rare for your opponent, for you to be playing the Creeper second and having the better board position.
Getting the 1 damage to the face. Eat it. Defile picked up.
Oh, interesting. Let's see, what can we do this turn? Can we kill off I guess if you coin Hellfire, you get to play
yeah, they can actually attack face, coin Hellfire, double Creeper.
I like it.
That's
pretty insane. If you
really
think
powerful turn. Like, I'm gonna kill everything in play and play 10/10 worth of stats. Waiting for the reaction to the second one.
Oh man. Yeah. They got us.
All right. I guess that just happened.
Right.
I mean, it's as far as boards where you have nothing against 10 power. This isn't that bad because you're playing your own 5/5 for free. Your opponent can trade into it. You can at least maybe Soulfire back. The problem is, of course, that it is UCLA who is supposed to be the aggressor here. They are playing the deck that is looking to end the game with pressure, and they are the ones who have to react to this pressure from Texas Tech. This is just a terrible position for them to be in.
They do have a Blood Reaver Gul'dan, though, so if the game goes long enough and, let's say, Texas Tech does not have a lot of their late-game options, they're in the bottom third of their deck, then UCLA can get a lot of value off the hero power and even it up.
The Spellbreaker from Texas Tech here is pretty strong, because it does mean they can get past the Tar Creeper and prevent the additional damage. And frankly, if they wanted to, they could just send that to the face. But they are, as we mentioned, playing a more controlling game plan, so just looking to ensure that there's nothing on the board to maybe get buffed by, say, a Blood Fury Potion, I suppose.
Yeah, if I'm UCLA, I think my biggest concern is actually just getting to Blood Reaver Gul'dan, because I think at this point we've ceded the board control, so you're going to use that to come to get back. And it seems like they're going to Soulfire, take a little bit of a risk. Oh,
dear.
I
you just that little look that the teammates just gave each other. I wonder if he was asking, should we just concede?
So they had an opportunity just to play Dreadlord onto the board too that turn and play a little bit slower, because they don't see when you're behind you should take risks. Sometimes you feel like you don't have a chance to win, but you have Blood Reaver Gul'dan. That is your backup option. And that's not even that bad of a backup option. Like, Blood Reaver Gul'dan gives you so much real late game. And you had 2 demons in your hand. You had Dreadlord and you had Voidwalker, plus whatever died before.
It's true, though you are playing against a deck that has all those same cards and also has Voidlords. So, yes, you theoretically could get to Blood Reaver Gul'dan, but it's many, many turns away. and your opponent is going to be able to leverage life that entire time because you're not pressuring them.
But what did the Soulfire actually give them? Because they only had 2 mana left anyways.
It's true.
So, like, they wouldn't have developed anything proactively. They would have played Voidwalker, which meant Spellbreaker traded into it. And it's the same thing. It's like a Spellbreaker uncontested on the board, and they risk losing their Gul'dan or their Dreadlord, which also would have been really bad. If they lost their Dreadlord or their Gul'dan, they would have been in a very, very bad situation.
Absolutely.
Texas Tech has to do everything they can to make sure they don't throw this one away because they know they're in a really good spot. They can even just play Fatigue at this point. They don't have to ever hit the life total. They can just keep removing everything from UCLA, and without Blood Reaver Gul'dan, the biggest threat in their deck is Bone Mare. They have a clear with Defile, straight up. Defile into Air Knight Chain Gang. Seems good to me. And then, what does UCLA do from this spot? They're just really far behind. They have to draw back-to-back Bone Mares. I think that's their biggest plays here. Or Doom Guards. Doom Guards would be really good as well.
Yeah, the Bone Mare from Texas Tech, though, is going to be a big problem for UCLA, since these chain gangs on the board are going to become a little bit worse for them.
That's a Bone Mare. Whew. Bone Mare, by the way, also making its way into some of those controlling Warlock decks.
They have so many minions now.
Yeah.
There's a Doom Guard. It's powerful.
Nice.
But
drawing a card and cycling this Flame Elemental is actually really useful.
Yeah. I mean, it is about as good of a Doom Guard as about as good of a card you're going to find in this spot. Though still probably not going to be enough to actually swing the game back in UCLA's favor.
So this is what needs to happen. They need to have played Mortal Coil in their deck. They Malchezaar Zimp, Doom Guard, get the Coil 2-1 into a Soulfire 6-4, and Doom Guard trade. That's how they can get back.
That is a play that could theoretically happen, and then probably just run into Tarlarker next turn. It's
perfect mana usage.
But that could happen.
I'm just thinking of the outs, man.
I was looking for something too, and then looking up the top of the screen and saying, okay, well, even if this incredibly improbable event happens, you still probably lose.
Yeah. I didn't say it was a good plan. I just said it was a plan. I'm trying to look at the UCLA's deck list and see what they can even play here. They don't play the Mortal Coil, and like we said, Doom Guards, Bone Mares, Corridor Creepers. I will say that drawing the Prince Keleseth is also pretty important too, but at this stage, they might just die because I see that Cabal Lackey, or Possessed Lackey, excuse me. And if that pulls out just a big minion, they're just going to die from the sheer pressure.
No, trust me.
Well, Chain Gang, that's a pretty good buff card to draw. All right. Okay, Chain Gang and a Soulfire, your Doom Guard. That actually, for the first time since turn 2...
Since turn 1 when they played Cobalt Librarian.
Gives board control back to UCLA.
Or does it?
For this turn, things are still looking okay.
Serve me now.
Possessed Lackey really threatening for pulls of Voidlord.
And you know what? That pulls a Voidlord, I'm guessing, because I haven't seen any other demons.
Let me consult the deck lists. Let's see, 2 Voidlords, and that's it. You are correct.
Become fairly standard operating procedure, except for some of the decks will have maybe Dreadlord, maybe Doom Guard.
Good. This is as good as a draw that you can ask.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is, as far as things that could actually allow UCLA to come back, this is kind of looking like there's still life in them.
Right.
Although that Spellstone plus Defile, does that add up to a board clear? If they Spellstone 3 damage to the, because there's no way to get a 1 and a way to actually get enough of the Doom Guard, right?
They can't kill everything.
They'd have to tap first and find something, I think.
Unless they pull something from Cabal Lackey to mid Defile.
It's pulling Voidlord.
Yeah.
So Voidlord isn't going to die. So if they tap and find like a Mortal Coil, is there a way to clear here? I still don't think so.
I think it's good enough, though, to be quite honest. Double tar minions, tar bros.
This is a whole collection of taunt-themed minions.
Yeah, it's a lot of cheating going on, if you ask.
Okay, a bone mare. We're talking about how it's the sort of best possible
wait,
scenario.
they do play the coil.
You look at the wrong list.
I might be looking at the wrong list.
All right. Well, bone mare can allow Doomguard to take down Voidwalker if they Void Lord if they want to.
Yeah, they had. I was looking at the wrong list. They had one of Immortal Coil. Wow, the out actually existed.
It could have happened.
So many
All right. It's not over yet.
They can Bone Mare the 4/4 trade Coil, even Coil first off of a Doomguard trade or a Captain trade.
I mean, the biggest problem is that despite all of this, yes, they can. They may be able to get a board position here that they're not losing in at least, but they don't have Gul'dan and their opponents do. And there's, they need to actually get damage in, not just sort of be ahead of the board in order for them to realistically have a chance of winning before Gul'dan seals the deal. And there's just a lot of taunts coming down. So now that Defile, so the Defile plus Spellstone now, you can Spellstone on the Doomguard. Then you can Defile, and then no, that will kill your Void Lord. You can get a 3 from your Chain Gang.
Yeah.
And clear. You can clear the board. If you Chain Gang Spellstone Defile, you can clear out all your opponent's stuff.
So what you do is you trade the 3/9 into the 7/4. That leaves 2 health on your Void Lord and 1 on there. You Spellstone the Bone Mare, so that's your 3, and then you play Stonehill Defender, that's your 4, and that clears the 5 on the...
Yeah, this is the play that I was looking at.
Okay.
It ends up clearing off everything and leaving you with just Void Lord, Voidwalkers here.
Okay. I think I like the other one because you just toss your Stonehill Defender and you keep your Serenite Chain Gang, but I don't know if it truly matters. Because I think losing the Serenite is a lot more painful than losing the Stonehill Defender.
Sure. Though...
Right?
Yeah, but...
It's inconsequential, I feel like. Maybe, I don't know. Warlock's out of cards, and if Gul'dan's like the 30th card, that could be relevant.
I mean, they can attack the 3 Voidwalkers in Hellfire into Stonehill. They probably just want to tap first.
Could also Stonehill first, but ill-advised.
The legal play. Ooh. There's also Possessed Lackey now.
Yeah. Oh, I actually kind of like the Glue Meter. Draw Glue Meter. Just challenge the board. Yeah, why not? Force your opponent to do something into it.
They'll serve me now.
And also pressuring the life total here.
Yeah, there's not much life left for UCLA. The Gul'dan is gone.
Jeez. UCLA just keeps drawing gas. I can't believe they have this much game despite things going catastrophically wrong in the very early stages.
Texas Tech wants to really not draw their second Void Lord right now. They did not.
Okay.
So that's good for them.
If they play Blood Reaver Gul'dan, they get back Void Lord and 3 Void Walkers, which challenges the 4 minions on board.
Well, yeah, they can trade in the Possessed Villager and 2 Voidwalkers into and
so
Gul'dan.
And then Gul'dan plus
Void Lord,
Hellfire.
Void Lord, 3. Yeah.
So that's the play then, right? So trade everything into 1 Serenite Chain Gang. Pull your other Void Lord. Play Blood River Gul'dan. Get a full board.
Oh, they're just gonna Hellfire. Okay. Hellfire, that gives them a Void Lord. And they're playing Shrug Leader. Sure.
What if they're I guess...
I mean, there's just nothing realistically that can kill them from this position.
Yeah, okay.
And their opponents have to fight through this Void Lord, and then the Void Lord comes back too.
True. I guess it didn't really matter if they did that or this, because both effectively set up lethal. And Texas Tech gets another victory, tying up the series 3 games apiece.
Yeah, keeping it close. We have quite a few wins that have been put on the board, and no player eliminated just yet. There are just single losses across the board. We see this is the Warlock deck that we saw played just now. The Texas Tech deck, the controlling deck with the pair of creepers that gave them such a huge advantage early in the game.
I'm looking at the Chittering Tunneler as an interesting tech inclusion.
Chittering Tunneler is a card I actually seen a reasonable amount of because of its synergy with Spellstone. Both, it is a card that can turn on your Spellstone by damaging yourself. You also can Chittering Tunneler into a Spellstone, and it will immediately upgrade itself.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Kind of like the Cobalt Librarian interaction. The moment you draw it and then deal a damage, because of the way it's sequenced on the text, implies that the card is in your hand before the damage to yourself.
Yeah, and on that screen, we see 5 new cards from Kobolds and Catacombs, along with that Chittering Tunneler that stand out as real keys to what makes this deck tick.
I see a lot of epics on screen, too. It's
true.
It's definitely not the cheapest deck, but it's a very, very powerful deck indeed. And I think one thing to consider as well is, just how the tech decisions are going to pan out for the rest of the series. You look at the lineups, and a couple of them have some weird inclusions. And we're not going to spoil anything because, again, it's a closed deck list format, but there's definitely some questionable decisions.
And look at this. We have one loss for every single player. So we are essentially in single elimination for players at this point.
Yeah.
Anytime a player is defeated, they are out. So we're going to see this perhaps go the distance with every player going into the last match.
We have Hunter versus Shaman, Druid versus Warrior, and Rogue versus Warrior. We're going to see if Warrior's got the chops to keep up with whether or not the meta is right. The statistics are saying that Warrior's bad, or perhaps they have some surprises. And all kind of depends on what variations that they're bringing too. Like, is Druid going to bring Jade Druid? It's going to bring Aggressive Druid. Is Hunter going to play the Spell Hunter? I do want to go against the grain here, and I think that Hunter is actually a decent class. A lot of people say that Hunter is not very good. They even had a public outcry, what is, the set really trying to do for the direction of this class? Is it really, truly viable? I think Hunter might actually be a class that people are sleeping on and might actually have a pocket of use in this kind of meta.
Well, this is not going to be Spell Hunter. This is going to be Dire Mole Hunter as Texas Tech gets ready to try to give the beatdown to UCLA.
Yeah, I do think aggressive forms of Hunter are the most powerful versions right now. This is looking to be like a mid-range version featuring Cobalt Scalebane.
Yeah.
At first, if you look at Cobalt Scalebane and Houndmaster and a few other cards, you might think this could be a neutral package with Katrina, the new legendary minion that could recruit only beasts because you want to play non-beast centric. But Dire Mole does imply that's a little bit more board focused here. And they draw patches again. This is not exactly what you want to see if you're Texas Tech. And meanwhile, if you're Shaman, you're kind of liking your hand a lot.
Yeah, this is an excellent hand for UCLA. A pair of Fireflies, which are among your best cards against a Hunter deck, since they fight so well for the early game without costing you resources, as well as a Quarter Creeper and Maelstrom Portal. So a lot of ways to fight for the board, clear the board, then take advantage of the fact the board was cleared with that Creeper.
Hunter draws double Eagle Horn Bow too. This is almost as bad as it gets. You get patches in your opening hand, and you get no real minion pressure on turns 2 and 3. Just one card alone, Firefly, kills half your hand. Yeah. Firefly plus the Flame Elemental just challenges everything.
Get him. Firefly is just quietly one of the best cards from Ngoro.
Yeah, not much fanfare, and I think most people appreciate it too. It's not a card that people complain about either.
Right.
So it seems like a very well balanced but powerful 1-mana card. That seems to be like a really difficult thing because 1-mana plays can often dictate the pace of the entire game. Look at Mana Worm or Tunnel Trog or Northshire Cleric.
Yeah, now the pair of Fireflies, or rather Firefly plus Flame Elemental, not really well challenged by Texas Tech here. They have to use their patches, take it down. And that does leave them with the Dire Mole still around. UCLA can choose to clear it. They have the Maelstrom Portal here, but I think that they may have anticipated a Crackling Razor Maw coming down if one were in the hand.
Right.
And I think they can feel comfortable just playing out their 2 Fireflies and saving their Maelstrom Portal.
Yeah, I'm comfortable enough even to just totem in this position if I'm UCLA.
I think that you want to get the Fireflies down. I think that it's really important to contest the early board as much as you can. Toteming is pretty passive, doesn't allow you to have any way to react to your opponent playing, another substantial minion. Like say your opponent Animal Companions, and no matter what they get, I think you'll want to have played the Fireflies last turn to give you some better tools to eliminate that threat.
But then what if you hit by that Wall of Misha? Or even Leok. Leok's pretty bad too because it buffs the 1/2. I guess you could bump the 1/2 to hedge your bets against that.
It's still better for you than if you viewed hero powered.
Okay, I like it. I definitely do want to bump this 1/2.
Yeah, I would like that too. It looks like they decided to go for the face.
Okay.
Leroy.
Also, here's another thing too. Bumping the 1/2 also makes the Quarter Creeper a play next turn.
It's true. It does. You can potentially just take that trade.
Right, and then you have a real turn 3. In that case, I like it because the thing about toteming was that Totem last turn sets up a turn 3 where they can Firefly Totem again, and then set up either a better Cult Master or better Quarter Creeper. But in this case, they can actually play a Quarter Creeper as soon as turn 3. And now they can't because they didn't bump.
Right. Well, yeah, no, they can double attack in now because of the bow hit.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah, they can double Flame Elemental into the Dire Mole to enable that turn 3 5/5. Not bad against Hunter.
No, yeah, you're right. In that case, it's only bad against Animal Companion. I was forgetting about the double trade. Man, Hunter's in a terrible spot. Jenkins being draw and kill command.
I mean, this is a bad draw from a probably bad matchup. This is one of the worst matchups for Hunter. You generally rely on getting early pressure on the board against a deck that has a lot of early game defense. Great ways to punish you when you do fall behind. And especially with this poor of a draw, it's going to be an enormously uphill climb for Texas Tech to get back into this game.
So, I mean, I guess what you could do is set up another Eaglehorn Bow and kill command on the following turn with the Crackling Razor Maw.
They could use their bow to kill one of the 1/1s here,
right?
And just play second bow. Then that gives them Crackling Razor Maw into kill command to remove the 5/5 creeper next turn and a bow charge. But it's still just a really, really poor option. They're just going to go ahead and hero power.
Man, they're just going to pass. I guess to them, killing the 1/1 is the same as having the bow charge anyways. They don't really value that, but we'll see if it ends up paying off here. UCLA hovering over the Barns. They have a lot of good options that can land here.
Barnes in the middle for Flame Tongue Totem. Aya's nice. That is really good hit.
Yeah, good pickup here.
Not that they needed it. Right now, UCLA is firmly in the driver's seat, and Texas Tech is going to be digging to try and find any way out, and I don't see one. I think at this point, Texas Tech can't possibly win back this board, especially with that Aya hit. Even a Alley Cat and a kill command of the minion. I mean, this is doing something. You're removing some of your opponent's threat here, but you're really not in any position to actually fight back.
Yeah, they don't even play Unleash the Hounds, for example. So.
And there's a Cult Master in UCLA's hand if they really want to sort of turn the thumb screws here and just reload with this trade.
I like it. It helped. I mean, you're not even losing too much by having Aya trade into it.
Right.
And then you're able to potentially draw into Bloodlust and game-ending damage. You're also still developing onto the board. Like you're putting 4 power. It's very significant.
Or both.
I like it. They recognize they should kill Ugly Cat first. I think the question here is whether they trade the Flame Elemental or trade Aya. Aya does leave you with more board presence. It is a little bit more vulnerable to the threat of a Unleash the Hounds. As you've mentioned, there's no public information regarding these deck lists available. So despite the fact that there is no Unleash in Texas Tech's deck, UCLA is respecting it.
Cobalt Scalebane's definitely not helping her in this position. Again, do have to wonder about if the deck list here is compromising Texas Tech. This is kind of the big vulnerabilities of building it out with an awkward curve.
And the Scalebane, in many situations is terrifying, but here is not really going to do anything. This is 8 damage to the face.
It's close.
We're 1 damage off lethal with that Jade Lightning, and another Jade Lightning waiting in the hand.
Yeah.
No healing really ever gets played in Hunter decks, and the writing is definitely on the wall here. This game's over.
How sad is it? Not even a single Crackling Razor Maul was able to land onto any of this. Double Eagle Horn Bow patches, Leroy Jenkins kill command. Texas Tech just basically had nothing.
They finally adapted. There it is. Wind Fury. Found lethal.
And UCLA will cruise to a Game 7 victory. You do expect in an 11-game series for some default wins, but that was just a brutal mauling.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the first player elimination of the match. So No Foolin, who was piloting that deck, he is eliminated and will no longer be able to participate in these games. You see him taking his headset off, and he's getting out. His friends are going to have to carry him.
Oh, no.
Didn't even get the fist bump.
Oh, no. The awkward
there we go.
fist bump.
The other teammates, they fist bump one another.
Oh, man. Pulling up Craigslist right now.
Misconnection.
Misconnections. Let's fist bump to make up for the deficit. All right, there we go. Texas Tech, we got you. But yeah, that is the format of the tournament for people who aren't familiar with it. If the player loses both their lives for their unique set of 3, they have to walk off stage. Tasty Nacho and Cowboys, they're still in the mix, and we have Warrior versus the Druid coming up next here. Now, the important thing to note is that Triton's classes are all unlocked, and that is because he's played each class 1 time. The only thing is that you can't have, you can't overplay one class if you haven't played enough of the rest. So you can't play Mage twice if the rest of your classes haven't been played once.
Right. So now we see that these next two matches the next 2 games are set. It will be the Warrior from Texas Tech against the Druid from UCLA, then the Rogue from Texas Tech against the Warrior. So we're going to see those Warriors.
Yes.
And there's some interesting Warrior decks in these lineups. But then after that's done, and the actual pairings per player get shifted around, all those decks will be unlocked once again.
Yeah, and how will the team powered by friendship survive without one of their 3 pillars? Texas Tech was a group of middle school friends who grew up together, now all attending Texas Tech together as freshmen. And they'll be turning to the Quest Warrior up against what looks to be some kind of defensive slow Druid. It could be Jade Druid, which is more of a mid-range deck. It also could be just the straight-up big Druid as well.
I've also seen Miracle Jade. That's somewhat powered by the new Jasper Spellstone because it does enable just another cheap spell to cast alongside Auctioneer. And we see this is a function of the deck list not being revealed. UCLA kept that Spellstone, perhaps fearing their opponents are playing Pirate Warrior.
Right.
If they were to know they are up against Taunt Warrior, there's no way they keep that Spellstone. And now they're going to have a relatively weak card in their hand.
Yeah, very good play. I feel like UCLA has definitely been firing on most cylinders here. Maybe a couple of very small missteps in there.
The eyebrow raise. Oh, that's what's happening. Okay, and yeah, we see the Jade Idol drawn, so the jig is up. We know it is Jade Druid, and that's a pretty powerful hand. There's the Wild Growth, the Nourish, but currently no Infestation, so it's possible that Nourish may need to be used for cards.
If Texas Tech picks up a Stonehill Defender, though, I feel like they have some serious game.
Yeah.
Might even be slightly favored if Jade Druid draws a little bit short. They do have Nourish, but if they end up having a little bit resource dry, Taunt Warrior does have a small window to destroy the Jade Druid.
True.
I wonder what kind of new cards they have in their deck, if at all. We'll briefly look at it real quick. Seems like they're playing the Gem-Studded Golem, the 6-mana 5/9. Or is it a 6/9? I believe it's a 6/9.
I believe it's 6/9. It's a nice card.
And it seems like that is all. They don't have any of the big AoE cards like Reckless Flurry. And they top out at the Lich King. So that seems to be the 2 things of note for the Taunt Warrior.
Oh, a second Spellstone picked up for UCLA. That's essentially a dead draw at this point.
Yeah.
Very, very low impact in the matchup. I mean, they can obviously get them upgraded to give them some efficient removal for some of these minions, but that's not really what the matchup is about at all.
Would you have been tempted to draw with the Nourish in that position?
I think so. I think that especially when you're playing in a matchup like this, which is very resource intensive, drawing can find you more ramp, more draw. It's not like you need to get to Ultimate Infestation quickly, especially considering you don't have an Ultimate Infestation.
Right. At this point, if they continue to draw a little bit weaker through like removal spells or situational things like Wrath that they can't utilize, unless on their own minions, they might just play Kun as a 10 mana 7/7, gain 10 armor, because their hand's looking pretty weak.
Yeah, I actually really don't like that Nourish for mana there, given the context of their hand and the matchup. I think that in some matchups you can't afford to Nourish for cards. This is not one of them. This is a matchup where I feel like you can Nourish for cards because you don't need to be churning things out quickly. You can run your opponent out, just continue presenting tons of Jade threats as long as you have them. And right now they just don't.
Granted that they do have time, because it's not like Texas Tech has played a single taunt.
That's true as well. That is true as well.
But it will begin. 1, 2, 3, 4 taunts in the Warrior's hand, plus 2 more from the Curator draws.
Boom, upgraded Spellstone.
Texas Tech is 1 card away from having 7 taunt minions. But then it's going to take at least 7 turns to play them. It's a lot of turns for the Jade Druid, but they're not picking up the card draw like we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, this is proving to be a problem. They are running very low in resources here. They can use that Spellstone to do 4 to the Direhorn Alpha and trade their smaller Jade in. I guess their only Jade, the other's a Behemoth, and get some damage going.
Oh, it's a Jade Behemoth.
It is a Jade Behemoth.
So yeah,
it's not a Jade. I suppose it is Jade as well.
Yeah. Here's a funny thing. Would you consider playing Fandral in this position?
Just to set up your Kun?
Set up the Kun, and then it plays a little bit around some of those AoE potential from your opponent, from like Sleep with the Fishes, because there's only 2 minions on board, but it's not a lot of threat. Jade Behemoth is just the most power on board, straight up.
I mean, I think that, well, it looks like they're going to go ahead and upgrade the second Spellstone. Are they going to double Spellstone this, or just going to kind of hang out? They're going to just play the Fandral. Okay.
I think this is kind of cute. I like it.
All right.
And if our preference in cats or any indications of how we like plays, I like cute plays. Setting up for the Kun to gain 10 mana crystals gives you an opportunity for some really explosive stuff. The 7 armor doesn't feel, or the 10 armor doesn't feel like that consequential though.
It does upgrade your Spellstone. Oh, he's a 5/9. I was wrong. It's not as nice as I thought. Mire Keeper. Ooh. Mire Keeper with
yeah, this is dead draws here at this point.
I mean, they do have the opportunity to Kun get that that armor and the mana reset. They can use the 6 damage.
They can all in as well.
Yeah, they could just essentially throw everything on the board. But I mean, this is really why I feel like that Nourish was certainly quite questionable, because this is a game that will definitely go long. So you don't want to run the risk of just running out of resources. And right now they're very low on resources. They have to find Infestation or another Nourish.
Even getting past this Gem-Studded Golem is annoying in itself. It is a 5/9, by the way. I'm slightly mistaken.
What to do?
I do think getting rid of the Gem-Studded Golem is kind of a priority, but at the same time, it can't attack unless you have a certain amount of armor, so not exactly threatened by it either.
They do still need to attack through it.
True, they want to pressure the life total.
Man, they didn't even double up anything. They just all they did was use 3 mana. They did gain 10 armor, which did upgrade their Spellstones.
That was a good opportunity for. I mean, Texas Tech gets a lot of hints about the kind of hand that Druid has. That was the turn to use Ultimate Infestation. That was a turn to use a lot of their hand if they had like Wrath and whatnot. So they've narrowed down a huge amount of possibilities in the Druid hand at this point. I think they are concerned about their life total, but they have a lot of taunts.
Kun does generate quite a bit of pressure here, but there's not there's not that much of a threat. Like, for instance, they could even just coin out the Primordial Drake. If they wanted to coin out Primordial Drake and just clear off Fandral, which would leave Primordial Drake versus a Coon that dies attacking into it.
They also can just play Curator because they have the Direhorn Matriarch in their deck, so they can draw it, and then they can play Ghoul Matriarch next turn.
Just going to Golem again.
Okay.
All right. The first one seemed like a problem. There's a Nourish.
Oh, and with Fandral on board.
That was a incredibly important draw for UCLA here. I said just last turn, they need Nourish or they need Infestation. There is one of those key cards, and there is the other one. So now from an absolute dearth of resources to explosive couple of turns coming up.
Nice word choice. UCLA, yeah. Great Hearthstone player and a linguist. Mire Keeper just puts out a little bit of pressure, but it does kind of set up or play into the Primordial Drake, which is the one thing I don't really like about it. Yeah, actually, this is a Primordial Drake clear. Perhaps they're okay with it because they want to deal some damage to the warrior. And by doing so, they can double Jade and then Ultimate Infestation, pulling out some of the AoE.
Yeah, it does leave them with the ability to generate, because they have held on to that Jade Behemoth, a pretty big board again, so demanding some potential AoE already again. And Texas Tech, because the expense of a lot of the taunts that they had, the fact they didn't have Stonehill early, they've only played 4 taunts at this point, so they aren't really threatening a potential Sulfuros anytime soon. And now UCLA has sort of forced them to spend their mana reacting to the board each turn, which is problematic in terms of their ability to really make progress on that quest.
Well, they can play 2 taunts this turn. They can play Stonehill Defender and Curator.
Sure.
And then they have the Direhorn Matriarch and Brawl next turn. Like, they can Brawl and then Direhorn Matriarch.
Yeah, it's true, it's true.
Finishing the quest. So I think that is the line. Oh, Lich King seems really appetizing. So let's see. Okay, let's think. So your opponent wins the board next turn. You play Brawl and Direhorn Matriarch if you need to. If you don't, you can play Psychotron plus the new weapon and Hero Power, which can also help clean up the board. So it's hard. It's pretty tempting to take the Lich King. But I might feel like I favor a slightly cheaper taunt because the Hero Power matters a lot more to winning the game with the Lich King card.
Yeah, given the fact they are completing very soon, does mean that they won't be... I mean, they can play Lich King plus the Hero Power in the same turn, at least.
It's just hard to say, because there's so much undefined variables.
Right.
Like, what is the Druid holding? Have they drawn anything good off Nourished? Do they have more Jades to play, or are they going to draw cards this turn?
Well,
or is it all of the above with Ultimate Infestation?
And 5 more cards. That's actually, as far as 5 cards you could draw from your deck are concerned, those are about the least scary they could be.
Well, in a vacuum, yes, but if you're pressuring life total, it actually is kind of relevant to have double swipe, for example.
It's true, it's true. There is just 15 life remaining for Texas Tech, and they don't really have armor gain.
Yeah, not as far as what we see, at least right in front of us.
All right, well, speaking of armor gain, there it is.
Yeah, there is shield blocks in the deck here. Primordial Drake challenges the board, clears off 2 minions, and finishes your quest.
It does let you armor up too, and you are a little bit, I think, afraid of their life total at 15.
Okay, so it looks like they're going for the quest this turn. Direhorn Matriarch. Weapon. They just want to get online. There's almost 50 life for the Druid, with plenty more if they're picking up any other ways to gain armor, like Malfurion or the second Ultimate Infestation. Your Hero Power first maximizes your chances of hitting a minion, but you really want to hit the 5/5, don't you?
Yes.
No. I gotta move.
Yeah, definitely deep in the tank about it.
Yeah, think I hero power first because hitting the face is just so catastrophically bad.
Yeah, I got 5/5 anyway.
Kobe.
From downtown.
I feel like I want to trigger the collective audience by calling out Lonzo Ball every time it misses. Like, of course,
geez.
around the world. We'll be so mad. They pick up a Jade Blossom here, so let's think about what they can do in this spot. If they double swipe and Wrath, what is that? That is... it's not enough, it looks like. It's close. They're actually dangerously close to killing off Texas Tech here from this position.
Yeah. I think they just need to, they just need to develop the board here. They're going to go wide.
Right. That way, if they force a brawl, it has a high chance of killing off the Matriarch. And things like Sleep with the Fishes also should damage the Matriarch.
Yeah, they're going to go ahead and get this attack in so that potentially, if that minion does survive, it just gets cleaned up by swipe.
And this is kind of the value of having those low-cost taunts, because Texas Tech does have 2 brawls, so they can control the state of this board. But is it even something worth brawling if you think about it, right? Because there's still a lot of cheap minions. You can kill off most of it with just the Lich King. Oh, sorry, the Primordial.
Yeah, if you just play Drake here, can play, Drake clears off most things, then you can hero power.
Right.
And start clean up.
Yeah, this is working out great. Do not attack the 5/3. You are in for a rude awakening if you end up killing off that 5 through the weapon.
Arcane Tyrant. 3 minions are sort of the theme of the set, it seems.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Arcane Tyrant was kind of what we thought Corridor Creeper would be at first because of the fact that it's 0, but that was before it was revealed in the face.
Before he thought Corridor Creeper, we're like, this card's amazing. It's a 0 cost 4/4. It's like, well, this card's a 0 cost 5/5. You don't even have to play a 5 cost spell to do.
Yeah. You can play the Spreading Plague and then the Arcane Tyrant, but that leaves you 4 more mana, which makes me kind of want to Wrath a minion too.
Yeah, I think you cycle down the
Wrath.
Cycle punch on. Ooh, are they gonna swipe?
Oh, this is interesting.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't consider this at all.
Yeah.
Huh. So this 6/1 makes it so that it dies to a Whirlwind effect. It also trades into the 1/5. What are they saving the Wrath for then, that position? I guess because it's cheaper cost, so they can play 4/4/2 next turn.
It does, it does give them the ability to use all of their mana efficiently with their remaining cards.
I can do. Wow, what are these? We need to check the hero power if it's functioning as random as intended or is it actual targeted. What on earth? 3 for 3.
Well, there's another Tyrant. Not really what they're looking for in this sort of spot.
Yeah, this is where the Lich King truly shines. We're talking about having cheaper taunts at first, but the Lich King is just a straight up 8/8. And we're talking about how UCLA were stuck in a spot where maybe they had a little bit more cards. If they were deeper into their deck, they'd have much better plays against this position. And even though Warriors had 8 life, that can feel like a world of difference. If they the Warrior could be at 1 life and they can't get past the wall of taunts.
They're also just, because they end up taking quite a long time to actually find card draw and find resources, they didn't really build up their Jades very big. So they weren't in a position where, okay, any of these minions is enormously threatening. They got their board cleared by Primordial Drakes and such. Right. So if they were able to build up a bigger Jade count before Texas Tech got to the point where they're able to pressure with Sulfuros, they would be in a much better spot.
However, if Wrath picks up the Ultimate Infestation, for example, I think that's kind of like another reason to have had cycled. Swiping the face. They are desperate.
They're just basically in for Ultimate Infestation and hoping there's no armor gain. I think they recognize, and there's the Infestation.
Yeah.
And they're hoping, okay, don't have shield block. And they're, of course, going to get the news there is not just one, but 2 shield blocks.
Yeah, and there's also Death Coil that the Lich King could have picked up. So there were a few ways this could have gone terribly. Or Armor Smith as an opportunity as well.
Yep.
I guess Armor Smith would have required a Whirlwind activation, but there's still so many cards in the Warrior's hand that you kind of expected this. And now...
And this is just driving the point home here from Texas Tech. Now, this is a matchup that you generally don't want to see as a controlling Warrior style of deck, but they have managed to get into a fantastic position here, and UCLA does not look like they have any way out. 7-7 Jade seems big sometimes, but not nearly big enough now.
Yeah, they can stall Spreading Plague, Jade Spirit, Arcane Tyrant. But now, Talwar even has a luxury to start playing Frostmourne and start collecting their own Spreading Plague.
I think they may feel like they need to reshuffle with Jade Idol here because this is their second Jade Idol.
Oh.
If they do cast Infestation, they may just die to fatigue if they have not shuffled.
I think we're on the game plan of trying to win back the board because you might just die to the board if you're not careful.
How do they win if they cast this Jade Idol? This is their second Jade Idol. They have no way to cast Ultimate Infestation if they don't reshuffle.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
And
they could stall for one more turn.
The deck remaining is what? Aya and Malfurion. I mean, so in terms of cards that they certainly would rather draw, but maybe they need to do this now so they can cast Infestation and not just get fatigued next turn. Realistically, it's probably not going to go their way regardless, but
I mean, yeah, let's see if there's a lethal opportunity here. 8. So if you get Hero Power to the face and you're able to connect with Lich King and the Primordial Drake, that is lethal. They have Sleep with the Fishes, and they have
the problem
Whirlwind effect.
Yeah, but the problem is that their minions are also damaged heavily, so they will die to any AoE that kills the Scarabs as well. So they just need to kind of punch through.
Okay. They also have Obliterate, so a Shield Block, Shield Slam, Obliterate.
No.
Execute.
They were just Frostmourning. Yeah. And they're also just gaining armor this way, too. So they're getting further out of range of any possible burn shenanigans from UCLA.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't really matter in this spot, but yeah. Always worth trying to see if you can kill him now versus give him a turn to potentially swing it. But with 2 Spreading Plagues being used, full dominance, Frostmourne activated, UCLA looks like they are toast. Jade Druid's fallen off the throne for really hard. I mean, people are talking about how Jade Druid is just going to be so good all the time until rotation, but so far in Kobolds and Catacombs, it's had a very disappointing performance.
Yeah, there are a lot of very aggressive decks that are too fast even for Spreading Plague. Like the aggro Paladin decks can often kill you inside of 6 mana. And I think this is still exactly lethal. There's oh no, if they hit the 5/5, yeah, the Obliterate. Yeah, I think this is still exactly lethal, including fatigue, if I'm not mistaken. Oh no, never mind. I counted something else wrong.
No, I think you're right.
No, there's only 1 fatigue damage. Oh, no, yeah, it was really. I thought I counted it right.
Yourself,
I thought I had counted it right, and then I forgot about the Frostmourne when I was counting it again. So yeah, there it is, exact lethal with the fatigue.
And it really didn't matter either way because they had so much removal.
Right.
You can just they can Frostmourne the face next turn. Texas Tech showing some life. And is that elimination from UCLA?
It is elimination. And Dovahkiin is out, and his teammates will have to carry the rest of the match without him.
So the first member from UCLA ends up dropping, and we are going to go to another 1v1 match here. Oh, sorry, the final class remaining before we unlock classes. The important thing, again, is that now on Texas Tech's side, they will have 3 more classes available because they've already gone through their Warrior, which means Shaman opens up again, and I believe Mage opens up again for Texas Tech.
Yeah, and there we will see the other Warrior deck in the final game that we have not yet seen as well.
That's right. That's right. I believe it's Warrior versus Rogue.
Yes.
UCLA should be on the Warrior. And yeah, as we mentioned, Tasty Nacho will now have access to the Mage and the Shaman as well that they played from games 1 and 4. It's coming out to the wire. It's tied, what, 4-4 now?
Yeah. We got we still got some potential games coming up. We got a possible best of 11, I think, is total possible matches. But
all right, so when we come back, we're going to go into the next game of this best of 11. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everybody, to the TESPA Collegiate Finals for $50,000 in scholarships. If you guys are tuning in halfway, we are 8 games into our first best of 11. Game 9 is coming up between UCLA and Texas Tech. And we'll find out who ends up getting the best of the single elimination semifinal. Remember, the winner of this goes to the grand finals. And we have a couple of locks coming in. And this is a really important pivotal match because winning game 9 means that you've eliminated 2 players from the opposite team. And you also keep your options open for the decks for the following games. So in this case, UCLA will open up Warlock and Rogue if they win. And vice versa on the other side, they'll open up the Warlock for themselves on Texas Tech. So this is a very pivotal moment in the series.
Yeah, and early on in this match, it was looking very good for UCLA. And I believe they won 4 of the first 5 games. And now, though, it is absolutely evened up so that if really any team can take it at this point. And Texas Tech with a class that is generally considered significantly stronger, while UCLA, though, they got a new bit of tech here. It looks like they're playing Recruit Warrior. I like this deck.
Yeah, Recruit Warrior is just kind of a take on Control Warrior. You're essentially still just trying to control the state of the board, but go for better tempo swings than what you used to have. In the past, you would eventually swing the board through a big brawl and then maybe play like a Sludge Belcher and then try to win the game through Grommash Hellscream. Now you can clear the board and then just attack with Woe Cleaver.
Right. Yeah, rather than kill your guy, 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 it's okay, kill your guy, gigantic monster.
Yeah. With a couple hero powers.
Yeah.
Reckless Flurry, one of the new cards. Really powerful. And definitely a little bit dangerous because you don't want to reduce your life total too much. Sometimes you spend all this time getting a lot of armor and then you give it all away. And then you're just vulnerable. But I like it. It's a very powerful card.
Scourge Lord Garrosh picked up for UCLA. That's actually a card that came in and out of my versions of this deck because you're playing Gather Your Party, you can't really afford to play any of the cheap minions that you typically want to whirlwind yourself, like Armor Smith or Acolyte of Pain. So the late game utility of that card, at least in terms of interaction with your own minions, is much weaker, but still potentially powerful, enabling yourself to kill your opponent's minions. Speaking of killing your opponent's minions, UCLA needs to do some of that soon because that captain with the second captain in hand is real scary.
So here's like a really funny interaction. Funny for the rogue player, not very amusing for the warrior. If you coin out the Blood Razor, attack the captain, the patches and the swashbuckler stay alive. And then you play the second captain, they go back up to 2 health. You're in the exact same situation as before.
And it's brutal.
Granted that you do get the double whirlwind effect from re-equipping, but still you take a lot of damage in the process. It's just so annoying.
It always feels bad when you're like, okay, phew, I cleared that off, and it's like, oh no, just kidding.
Right. Be very surprised if it wasn't a captain.
And yeah, we see a little bit of an eye roll from UCLA there. Okay, sure, captain number 2.
Right.
Oh, interesting. So yeah, the Whirlwind Sleep can let them keep this weapon up and not have to re-equip an attack. Because if they re-equip, they do have to attack again.
Right.
Because the Whirlwind Okay, they're actually going to
Equip another
attack
weapon.
and then equip.
Yeah.
And there's a number of reasons to do this each way. You can attack and then equip if you want to keep your weapon with both charges. If you equip and then attack, it gives you the ability to trigger the whirlwind effect immediately next turn. However, UCLA already has a whirlwind in their hand, so I think that they are valuing the potential additional swing with that weapon.
Yeah, although the only way to remove this corridor creeper is to take another 5. That's starting to get fairly expensive at this point.
This has been a lot of my experience playing this Recruit Warrior deck, where you're like, oh god, I just keep getting pressured, I keep getting hit, and I can't quite ever get the board clear enough.
They
to
had
feel
the choice last turn to play Sleep with the Fishes, and they held on.
True.
Now they're playing Sleep with the Fishes for low value.
It's true, but he doesn't take 5 damage, which is pretty crucial.
Right.
And having a healthier life total going into your Gather Your Party turn is pretty valuable.
Right. So is having the weapon, too, because you can kill to 3 health, which is most of the plays available to Texas Tech right now.
One of the problems, though, in this particular matchup is that most of your minions are pretty vulnerable to Vilespine Slayer.
They fell off the truck.
The threat of Gather Your Party into just a big minion that your opponent just immediately kills is pretty rough. And now there's a buffed Bone Mare and a Vile, though currently there's actually no way to trigger the Vilespine. So if UCLA gets a big minion off of Gather Your Party, like say a Primordial Drake, Sleepy Dragon, these are cards we've seen in a lot of these builds.
Which they need, by the way, because if they don't, they just die to Bone Mare.
Yeah. They absolutely have to connect with a taunt if they Gather Your Party to not die to Bone Mare right now. And I don't think they have... I mean, their other option is Brawling.
Yeah, I mean, they're not dead exactly to it. There'll be 1 life, but it just feels like with no life gain, they'll be in a tough spot with Deathwing Dragonlord comes, and there's like, well, you can't really clean up everything.
Maybe.
Well, one life is certainly better than 0, especially when you have the Armor Up Hero power.
Yes. Agreed.
I gotta move.
Let's see it. What kind of dragon are we recruiting here?
Ooh,
Okay,
Grom.
we'll take
Okay, all right. That's removal.
Actually, even be slightly better.
That is better than a big taunt because it immediately clears the board and you don't have to worry about the Vilespine Slayer.
Oh, and no minion for the
that's huge for UCLA. The Grom is an enormous hit there from the Gather Your Party.
I mean, granted that it seems like they had a lot of good hits. They had that plus the Sleepy Dragons. But they also could have hit Deathwing or Ysera, and that could have been really bad.
I mean, and this is the sort of deck that, because you are turning the corner with a giant monster, it ends the game fast from this point.
Oh yeah.
Now, unlike against a lot of control warrior decks where maybe you're trying to grind them out with that Elven Minstrel Shadow Step and get a bunch of resources, no, you don't have that kind of time when Grom is staring down your face in turn 6.
Yeah, they actually had more favorable outcomes than less favorable. They had 2 Sleeping Dragons, Grom, Hellscream, and Yasharaj, and then 2 Deathwings and Ysera. So 4 out of the 7 options would have been very good to hit. Because Yasharaj actually had a 50-50 from that point on. Look how desperate Texas Tech is.
All right, they're digging, getting their Elven Minstrel. They find...
Okay.
All right, well, the South Sea Deckhand plus Bone Mare threatens lethal next turn. The South Sea Deckhand plus Bone Mare plus Dagger is... Well, actually, it's not buffed. Yeah, they're actually 1 damage off lethal with Deckhand next turn. Because they haven't played Keleseth yet. I was counting at 3 initially. They get Ysera. That's a bad hit here.
Yeah.
Because they want a taunt. Gotta clear it. Gotta clear everything.
Threaded Bone Mare. Gosh, it's so tense right now.
Precarious position here for UCLA. They've got giant monsters, but not a giant pool of health. Those deckhands are terrifying. I kind of like just deckhand Bone Mare, dagger your face, put you to 1.
I'm kind of going for it at that point.
Because yes, you can armor up, but you have another deckhand plus the dagger plus Vile Spine. You can back it up with the next turn.
Yeah.
They double deckhanding here,
and then. Whoa, they're playing board control, and they're going to go for the Corridor Creeper. That plays directly into a Scourge Lord Garrosh.
Yeah, I mean, this is... Well, the Scourge Lord Garrosh won't kill it. They don't have enough mana.
Yeah, I thought they had 9 mana next turn. Okay, well, then you can... Let's see. Oh, interesting. This isn't as clean as you'd like it to be. Oh, wow. This was actually a great spot by Texas Tech.
Yeah, that suddenly went from things looking... I mean, it's been precarious either way.
Yeah. But like, it's a very fast... It's a really big inflection point of like how the board could have swung the other way, and Warrior put you on a 2-turn lethal with 14 power on board.
So now...
Oh, this is really impressive.
UCLA, the Garrosh does not do enough here. They can Garrosh, it'll put them to 12. They can kill off the Vile Spine, but that costs them life, and then Bone Mare will kill them.
Right.
They can...
I gotta move.
They can just try and Woe Cleaver and see what they get, and that's what they're doing.
Well, they drew Deathwing.
Who exactly is woke here?
Yeah, they need the Sleepy Dragon. There you go.
It's the Sleepy Dragon. He's so sleepy. He's so big.
They had a really good chance of hitting it too.
Yeah.
2 Sleeping Dragons, Yashraj, and Deathwing Dragonlord remaining in the deck, so only 1 out of 4 bad hits. Oh my gosh, are they gonna be able to pull through here?
Well, they cannot attack with Woe Cleaver right now because there's a gigantic crawler in the way.
They might be able to brawl past it.
They can definitely, if they armor up Whirlwind Slam Reckless Fury.
Oh, okay.
They can clear the Corridor Creeper.
No.
I mean, you slam first.
Right.
If you're doing that, you're slamming first.
They might pick up Sleep the Fishes as well. Oh, what is it? Oh, I thought it was deal 5 damage. That could be pretty big too.
They slammed there. Now they can't punch through. Now they have to win the brawl.
And get Sleepy Dragon. Oh!
They won the brawl. Now they still need a taunt.
Right. If they pull Deathwing Dragonlord, that's it. They have 2 out of 3 chances.
Shaking their head. Oh, and it's Deathwing, and that is death. The SI agent in the hand will seal the deal.
Wow, by the skin of their teeth. Texas Tech takes out the Warrior, and that is going to be a handshake. UCLA drops another member. Kinnick is down for the count. Texas Tech is 1 game away from going to the grand finals. And potentially the plot device of losing their friend has powered up Texas Tech.
Yeah, and Kinnick has been eliminated. Or no, it looks like Triton's walking away. Are we? No, never mind.
No, it's Kinnick.
It's Kinnick. Never mind.
Just Triton remains.
Just Triton remains. Yes.
And we'll see if when he alone can stand up to the power of friendship. Taking a deep breath, recognizing what's at stake here. $50,000 in prizings, as well as a T-shirt and a couple of other cool giveaways as well, which is what everyone's playing for, as well as the pride, considering that he comes in here as the player who's the most experienced in tournament situations, and he wants to live up to that reputation.
Yeah, and we were talking a little bit about how, you can't just have a team captain who navigates everything, because if they get eliminated, then you still need to be able to pilot your decks. And if you are the sole remaining player who has the most experience, probably the best position you can be in at that point.
Let's take a look at how the field is shaping up. After, 9 games of play, Triton is the last remaining player of University of California, Los Angeles. Now, Tasty Nacho and Cowboys have 6 classes opened up just to take down 3. They can play Priest, they can play Mage, they can play Warlock, Rogue. In fact, one of the interesting things is the power loading on Cowboys. with all the strongest classes, essentially, in case it came down to the point where he was the last player remaining and had to all 3 classes available.
That is actually sort of crazy. And you did mention that Cowboys is something of the captain of Texas Tech.
Yes.
And perhaps they strategized that putting the strongest classes together on the player who they believe was their strongest player may give them the best chance to win in a potential one-on-one sort of elimination situation. And they could face just that. If Tasty Nacho loses this next game, Cowboys has potentially just the 3 best classes in the format to take down Triton.
I mean, Triton still has Priest, though. So he can always lean towards the Priest for the final 2 games.
But he is still in the same situation. The rules of needing to cycle through his deck still apply to him. So the fact that he can only play the Priest, say he plays the Priest first, he then cannot play Priest until he has played his other decks. And it looks like he's going to go with Priest to start things off. And it will be against the Mage from Texas Tech.
Yeah, this is a great pick here from Texas Tech. Recognizing that Highlander Priest doesn't have many bad matchups, but one matchup that it is bad against is Secret Mage. It's a losing matchup, at least on paper. You can tech to make decisions that influence it, but if Secret Mage is able to stick anything on board, and especially because the way Kieran Tor Mage statistically lines up against the Priest as a 4-3, it's very problematic for Priest to manage early on.
Well, Kazakus, one of the important cards. Radiant Elemental, potentially actually an early game play in this sort of matchup to give you a little bit of board presence and reduce the cost of your other spells. Often, in a lot of matchups, they're more controlling. You want to hold on to that Radiant and combine it for your combo turns, but you often feel pressured to play minions to be able to contest your opponent's stuff in this kind of matchup. But speaking of pressured, that is a very strong hand from Texas Tech that can put UCLA in a really bad spot.
What an amazing hand. Double Arcanologist for draws, so you don't have to draw your secrets, or at least less chance to draw them.
Look at Trenton just kind of pacing. He's alone there at the podium they're playing at, and kind of shuffling a little bit back and forth.
He's also a fast player, it looks like.
He is,
when you're not having to discuss
it out
and consult people's opinions, you just kind of play it immediately. Or it could be a sign of nerves, or it can just be the fact that he's actually really comfortable, and now he's like, yes, I don't have to think too much about it. That is a ping. They have turn 3 mapped out with Kieran Tor Mage and Explosive Runes.
Snaps off the Thalnos.
Yeah.
And that's actually a very good draw here, because it gives Triton a way to challenge this Arcanologist that will actually even draw him a card and plays pretty well into the best possible turn from Texas Tech, which is that Kieran Tor Mage into Secret.
So what is the best secret here? Explosive Runes ends up killing off pretty much everything at 4 mana, up to even Priest of the Feast, which is a really problematic card, and wins you the board with the 4-3. So I kind of like that a lot better than a counter spell.
It also, trade here plays around Potion of Madness. The Power Word Shield is actually a very, very good draw for Triton here, because it gives him a cheap spell that he can use. It's going to go for a 1. Okay.
It's also a cheap spell, too.
Another cheap spell which can play around Counterspell. If he were to take a 5, that puts him in a position where he doesn't have an easy way to navigate around Counterspell next turn.
I like that a lot.
The Freeze Minion draw card did not have the option of 3 damage, which I'm sure is what he was looking for.
Freeze a minion. I'm a firm believer in freezing off the Kazakus Potion sometimes, because you are convinced that you will win the board eventually, especially with cards like Dragonfire Potion and Psychic Scream. So it's not really necessarily about trying to generate a ton of value. But he was also given the option to draw a card, and I think that or gain 4 armor, I'd rather draw a card to try to see if I can replace my resources here. Now, my opponent took a Kazakus Potion. If I saw them take a 1-mana potion, if you're able to see it, then Corridor Creeper is most likely going to get unchallenged unless they specifically got deal 3 damage, 2 damage AoE. And I want to pressure the Priest as long as I can. It's not the most mana efficient play, though, which is the only annoying thing. But I like Corridor Creeper.
with no secret up here. Ooh, Priest of the Feast is a great draw here.
Yeah, and if it freezes the 5/5, we could be in business.
Oh, and there it is. Okay, this is huge.
This is the game.
Yeah, this could very well be a huge turning point in this game, because that heals Triton up quite a bit.
Yeah.
And now Tasty Nacho and Texas Tech need to find a way to get rid of this Priest of the Feast, which they don't easily have. They'd have to potentially trade into it and use Frostbolt. That is a huge cost.
That does allow them to play a quarter creeper for 1.
It does.
Which means they can squeeze
right into your opponent's Dragonfire Potion turn.
Yeah.
That's a pretty terrible situation to be in when you felt like you were firmly in the driver's seat. Now it's like, okay, well, I could just get totally destroyed by that dragon.
How about this? Frostbolt the 3/6 and then counterspell.
That's an option.
And go face.
And that is an option. You do leave up Priest of the Feast, which means that any of your opponent's cheap spells can generate a bunch of life for them, and you haven't permanently dealt with the Priest of the Feast. You still have to kill that at some point.
Okay. How about Frostbolt trade and then counterspell instead?
I think that's a reasonable option. You are still in a position where you are under some pressure. Is he just going for it?
Oh, it's gonna hurt so bad.
And I think he just crossed his fingers up there. He's like, okay, please don't have it. Please don't have it.
He has it.
And he has it. Dragonfire Potion. Those quarter creepers. They may be all that in a bag of chips, but they are not dragons.
Wow. What a turn. And Texas Tech had the option of hedging. They had so many choices. But if you are the aggressive deck, generally, it's not necessarily always, it's not a bad idea to just try to force your opponent to have responses.
And you are playing against a singleton deck. There's only one Dragonfire Potion, all those 30 cards. It's not a card your opponent's going to keep in the mulligan. So you oftentimes playing an aggressive deck against, especially Raza Priest, need to take risks. So that particular risk didn't pan out for Texas Tech, but that does not mean it wasn't correct.
However, a lot of times those questions are often, can I afford to play around it? And I think they could. They had so many options.
They had ways to play around it, but as to whether those sort of in the aggregate of possibilities of the cards in your opponent's hand lead to you winning more often than presenting 10 power on the board that if your opponent doesn't have Dragonfire Potion, they just lose to, is a different question.
Yeah, and the game's not over yet either.
Right.
If you look at Bone Mare as a follow-up, definitely a strong possibility for it to still get some damage in there. And also the possibility of Texas Tech just simply picking up Alaneth and having actual more gas. Yeah, Cabal Lackey, the very obvious choice in this position.
It's not a card that you're looking to hit in this particular matchup, but it is a one-cost card if you do get to the Anduin phase of the game.
Yeah, or if they have Mirror Entity in their deck. Firelance Portal on 7 versus Bone Mare. Going into a Shadow Reaper Anduin turn, I think you've used Firelance Portal.
Yeah, I think they are afraid of getting punished by the... Oh, that is not a punish. That is a reward. Doomguard comes down. And I think this has to be Psychic Scream from Triton here. He has... Maybe he can assemble some kind of crazy Pyromancer clear. Is there Pyro, Potion? There's no... there's no Powered Shield to give him more tools.
Oh,
he could... If he Pyro Potion... Holy Smite, is that...
Yeah, and then Spirit Lash.
And then Spirit Lash? Yeah, no, you can assemble it. I guess you Spirit Lash first?
Yeah, Spirit Lash first allows you to heal the Pyromancer and keep it on board. Right? You Spirit Lash first, then you Wild Pyromancer, Potion of Madness. Pyromancer takes 1 damage.
Yeah,
heal it,
there is a way to do this pieced together. We see Triton finding all of the little interactions there, getting 3 damage from this Potion of Madness. He actually could just heal himself. I think he actually doesn't care about this Pyromancer. Was he just gonna play? Looks like he's playing a lackey.
Yeah, he was
okay. Yeah, and you might be players might be tempted. Okay, I can keep my Power Minister alive. Well, your Power Minister is alive against a ping, and you're far more getting far more value just healing yourself in a matchup like this generally.
Whew. That is real spicy.
I'm late. I'm late.
Another quarter creeper hitting the board.
You are on fire.
Well, that Circle of Healing is a potential 0 mana trigger for counterspell.
Yeah.
There's Anduin, though.
Yeah, but if he plays it, he's setting himself up to get bone mirrored.
It's true. There is Psychic Scream in his hand.
True.
So if he does get bone mirrored, he can at least Psychic Scream the full board to the hand.
Yeah.
I must consider.
So he's already... go ahead.
I was just saying, the order is to play Circle of Healing first, if we know that it's counterspell, but have we seen both explosive runes, for example?
I don't believe so. I believe the only explosive rune has triggered on the Acolyte of Pain.
Right. And it could be an ice block, too, but very good sequencing here. Triton calls out the counterspell, immediately Psychic Scream, and there's no bone mirror for Texas Tech. Huge play here for UCLA to keep their...
Oh, but there is Aluneth.
Come, child.
Each of these players drawing their most powerful card.
Yeah. And now it's come down to the survival. And it seems like Triton recognizes that he values staying alive more than anything. He needs to maximize his heal every turn.
Yep.
Because his opponent's going to be tossing a lot of damage to his face soon.
And that's a double fireball.
Right. But he also has a ton of minion pressure too.
It's true, and that's sort of the crux of the situation is, do Texas Tech think that they have enough burn to potentially finish off UCLA without getting additional minion damage in? And the Tar Creeper plus the threat of removal, such as Anduin from hand, makes it that much more difficult to get actual minion damage connected. And against the hero power every turn healing the face, they're going to need to assemble a lot of burn very quickly. They've already used the Frostbolt. This is both their fireballs. They've used the Firelens Portal. They don't have very much more.
I know, and the way Triton set up this Shadow Reaper Anduin is that if Tasty Nacho and Texas Tech set up a big wide board with Bone Mirror, he's ready to strike back and gain a bunch of life.
Yeah.
I'm late. I'm late.
Oh my goodness! The power load.
Everyone, and look at the smile from Triton here, as that's exactly what he wanted to see.
He set it up this way. He knew this was a possibility.
Boom. Shadow Reaper Anduin. And with the buff on the Mana Worm, it kills the entire board.
Yeah. Something that Texas Tech, a little bit greedy, but they recognize that, look, Priest have to have that one guard.
Well, there's 28 life for UCLA and Triton here.
That's a lot of burn. That's 15, 18.
Well, Ice Block's not going to do anything. You're going to die to Aluneth before Ice Block number 2 can possibly matter. They do pick up the explosive rune.
Maybe. Do they have Medivh in the deck?
I don't know. I don't know if there's Medivh available to them. Ooh, Firelens Portal.
There we go.
So, all right.
So 23 damage right now. You can weave in some hero powers, but 5 turns. Maybe explosive runes can help get a little bit damage through as well.
I think you may need the explosive rune damage. I think maybe this turn you explosive rune Firelens Portal, so that it makes it so that if your opponent plays a minion, you're going to get the rune value because you need to maximize. Wow, they're going for minion damage. All right.
I guess they assume that they can use the minion to punch through, but there's a Shadow Reaper Anduin.
But there's an Anduin. Yeah, I feel like that damage had to go face.
Explosive rune's going to shut down the Guardian Auctioneer. You can draw first if you're Triton, just to see what ends up happening. Oh, Galaka Crawler! The Galaka Crawler will help absorb a lot of the damage.
It does.
And at this point, playing Guardian Auctioneer is also kind of like gaining life in a way.
Yeah, I feel like Auctioneer here from Triton makes a ton of sense because all you need to do is stop your opponents from killing you. They will die to Aluneth damage from the fatigue once their deck runs out, unless there's a Medivh. And if there is a Medivh that they find and play in time, there is the possibility that they can survive that. I think how Texas Tech plays this turn kind of shows whether there's a Medivh in their deck, whether they bother doing anything other than just throwing damage to the face, because they don't have time to do anything else. All right. I feel like...
The shadows.
Ooh, okay.
I guess they have Medivh in the deck then, based off the way they're playing it.
Well, I mean, they get
Excuse me.
one more turn, right? Potentially.
Right.
Because they empty their deck, then they're gonna fatigue 4 times. Is there Medivh in there? There is not.
But I mean, if Priest can't clear this,
It's true.
then they deal a lot of damage. But it doesn't matter for the base damage here because they're still refreshing hero power and trying to stay alive. And then Mage has 5, 7.
I think Tri's doing
9.
math right now, trying to figure out what the fatigue damage is going to be.
He's dead though either way because 15 damage from him plus the 7 on board. Ooh, wow, so close. And Texas Tech looks like they are 1 turn away from securing this.
Shadowy thoughts.
Priest unable to get wins this series has been the big storyline for me. And we have our first finalist going to the grand finale here.
They went through every card in their Mage deck to do it, thanks to Aluneth, but exact lethal with an empty deck, and Texas Tech is moving on to the finals.
The power of friendship prevails, taking down a Red Bull Team Brawl champion. And I gotta tip my cap though, UCLA played excellently this series. However, today is not their day. Texas Tech is going to the grand finale.
Yeah, and we saw a lot of really interesting decks on both sides. I particularly liked seeing the Recruit Warrior. Did not quite take it down, but we can tell you there are more exciting decks to come in the upcoming series.
That's right. This is just the beginning of the day. We have 2 more matches. The second semifinal, which will actually be provided commentary by Cora and Sidonia. They're in the studio right now watching along. And then, of course, the grand finals, which Kilburn and I will be doing. But what a pleasure it is to see another 9-deck format and a bunch of experimentation being done. That's one of the really exciting things about TESPA. It feels like every time we do these events, Kibler, they're always trying out something new. Yeah,
and there's lots of opportunity for experimentation, both with the formats and, of course, with the new format in Standard with all the Kobolds and Catacombs cards. I'm really looking forward to exploring it more myself, personally.
That's right. So if we can kind of take a step back and look at how the series ended up panning out here, what was a couple of things sticking out for you from the very beginning to the last game of Priest vs. Mage?
Some of it was just the tenacity of Texas Tech. They took a really significant deficit early on. I think they were down 3-1 at one point. All the players on the ropes, and they managed to battle back and not lose a player for quite a while. And then, we're just able to get over the hump at the end. All right,
well, let's go ahead and welcome Texas Tech to the interview process. So they are the first semifinals to advance to the grand finals. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Great. So why don't you just talk a little bit about how that series went for you guys, like some of the things that went right, some of the things that went wrong, and like what your mindset's at.
Well, after the fireball face, and then we dropped 2 games, we just had to not get on to ourselves, and we just had to keep playing, and I think we did that pretty well.
How was the when you lost No Foolin' early on? Do you feel like that was a big hit for you guys? And how are you guys able to like stabilize from that point on to swing the series back in your favor?
Yeah, we were really scared because I feel like the first team to lose a player has like a huge disadvantage. I think we were the first team to lose a player, but John and I are really good teammates, and we were comfortable just playing with us too. And yeah, we just played our best every game. And
you guys definitely did that for sure. Talk to me a little bit also about the dynamic. You guys wrote down that you guys are friends for a very long time now, since middle school. And now that you guys are competing as freshmen too, together as Texas Tech, like how much does that mean to you to be able to compete with your buddies and also be so successful?
It's huge because we've known each other for a long time. We've played sports together. So in high pressure situations, it's good to know that you have people that you can trust. And it really showed that series.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I just want to go back. You mentioned right at the beginning of the interview, the fireball face. So what exactly happened there? Were you just trying to take back your fireball on the tablet and accidentally hit yourself in the face?
No, well, I'm really bad at playing on touch screens. Like I've done that on my phone multiple times, and I was just trying to fireball the Scalebane, I think, and I just I was lazy and I put it across my face, and I don't even think I lifted my finger. It just, I don't know.
I know your pain. I've done that before. I've done that before. Never quite in this stage, but it worked out for you guys anyway.
Yeah, we were actually talking about how we've done that very recently ourselves, so no worries. Is there a team that you prefer to face in the grand finals at all?
I don't know anything about their lineups because it's closed deck list, but I want to play New Jersey because we've been talking to them and they seem like really cool guys. So,
all right,
I guess them.
We'll see what ends up happening. Congratulations, Texas Tech, and good luck in the grand finals.
Thank you.